handling solutions. Core Grain is your trusted partner for grain storage solutions across the prairies, dedicated to offering you the best grain storage and handling systems. We work tirelessly to customize grain monitoring and conditioning systems to fit your specific vineyard plan, now and in the future. Core Grain, doing the right thing for your farm. See you at the Crop Production Show.
Hello there, this is George Leith, Managing Partner at Harvard Media. I'm proud to announce that SaskToday.ca is now under local Saskatchewan ownership. Sask Today's team of local journalists are on the ground in communities across the province. We focus on local topics that matter to you: community news, agriculture, business commentary, local sports in our all-new Sportscage, and more. Visit and bookmark SaskToday.ca and sign up for our daily news digest. SaskToday.ca, from Harvard Media, everywhere.
Broadcasting from Century Studios in downtown Regina, Harvard Media presents the all-new Sportscage, where Saskatchewan comes to talk local sports. Brought to you by Sask Lotteries, bringing communities together. Sask Lottery products fund over 12,000 sports, culture, and recreation groups across Saskatchewan. Be a part of the show. Call 1-866-767-0620 or text 306-936-6262. The all-new Sportscage. Streaming at sportscage.com and on the radio at 620 CKRM.
All right, here we go. The Tuesday edition of the all-new Sportscage. Barney's still on the one-game injured list. It's Maz here filling in. Riding shotgun today, Derek Bidwell at the Crop Production Show in Saskatoon. Bids, as the kids would say, or as the question would be, what's the vibe like there? It's day one of the show. What are you seeing so far?
Well, what the kids would be talking about, what's number one on the charts, what they would say is the sitch. You can't say situation, right? You got to say sitch. You got to shorten all the words, right, Maz? And then you're part of that group now. So the sitch here is that it just got underway, the Western Canadian Crop Production Show here at Prairieland Park in Saskatoon. The whole building, those haven't been here before, there's kind of two major buildings with a lobby that separates those two. The whole thing is for the Western Canadian Crop Production Show. I had trouble finding a parking spot. There is not every truck in Saskatchewan, but there's a lot of trucks here, man. If I had a buck for every truck in the parking lot, I would have about $2,500. There are a lot of trucks, not a lot of spaces out there. A lot of people going around to the different spots here. I'm right near the Eclos spot, and John Deere's nearby. Those ones are two of the more popular ones next to our spot here, and Degelman as well is on the other side of me. And we're also right near, Maz, the concession/beer garden. So this is like where everybody congregates, of course, right? This is the kitchen of the house party. So we're right in the kitchen of the house party. So we're in a good spot.
Let's see, it's 3 p.m. How many people are already 4 drinks in? A stiff whiskey on the rocks. All right. The all-new Sportscage, the Tuesday edition, some familiar faces. Arash Madani will go coast to coast just after 4 o'clock. Glenn Suter's going to be on with us just after 5. We've rounded up former NHLer and good Sasky guy Clark Wilm to join the show here in about 20 minutes' time. And we're also going to do the SJHL report with Benny Walchuk. He's on the road. And the Riders GM Jeremy O'Day at the CFL winter meetings in North Carolina. Dave Thomas caught up with him earlier today. We'll check in with that. And as always, if you want to be part of the show, you can. It's 306-936-6262 if you want to call or text. Wildcard weekend wrap last night. The LA Rams beat the Minnesota Vikings 27-9. And I had said on the show, not only yesterday, but in the weeks leading up, you don't want to probably play the LA Rams because, A, they're playing with house money. They've got nothing to lose. With Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford, who have already won a Super Bowl, they are that team that everybody was trying to avoid. And a very fragile Minnesota Vikings team had to play them last night. And Minnesota didn't look the same after they got blown out from Detroit. So it's not only, Derek, if you're watching the same game I was, they lose 27-9. Not only does Minnesota lose, but it's how they lost. 9 sacks of Sam Darnold. He couldn't make decisions. The Sam Darnold we saw earlier in the season was nowhere to be seen. And if you were checking the stats, the other losses that the Vikings had this year were against the Lions and against the Rams. There are some people, and I'm one of them, that aren't surprised that the Vikings, when it mattered the most, a beautiful regular season, now purple tears because they just couldn't pull it off in the playoffs?
Yeah, I'll start off with the LA Rams and your points on that. Yeah, their defense looked really good, whether it was Gallimore charging up the middle from the defensive line or the defensive backs shadowing Justin Jefferson and not allowing him to get open. The Rams defense looks really good. I'll get into the Sam Darnold thing next. Yeah, where do the Vikings go from here? That is a tough one. Even at some point, not at some point, I think 2 or 3 times in the game yesterday, Troy Aikman and Joe Buck were talking about what they do next. And they kept showing, you got Sam Darnold, right? Of course, as the quarterback now that got him to the regular season record that he did, but then faltered in the last 2. They brought in Daniel Jones from the New York Giants. He wanted out of there. You got J.J. McCarthy, drafted 10th overall last year. So what do you do with him? Is he going to be the heir apparent? Do you go with him? So I don't know what the Vikings are going to do next year. It's a real tough one. Sam Darnold played very well for them leading up to the last 2 games. But as you mentioned, as indecisions left them in a tough spot. Their O-line was banged up yesterday, but I almost wanted him to get that one more sack. I like watching telecasts or games when records are made. I was like, hey, get one more. Get that 10th one. 11th one, maybe I thought they might be getting in that game. So there's that. And then lastly, the LA Rams. You mentioned that they're a team that a lot of teams wouldn't want to face right now. Yeah, they're the silent assassins. They're playing with house money. People weren't expecting a lot from them at the start. The other thing too, of course, is that they feel that they almost have a bit of the country behind them, of course, at everything that's going on in California with the fires. You saw Sean McVay and the coaching staff wear the LA Fire Department hoodies on the sidelines. They feel that they have a little extra push behind them now because of everything that's going on there too. So yes, all those things said, LA Rams wouldn't be one that I would want to face for sure. And they looked real good yesterday.
Colson, I'm not sure if we have that clip ready to go of Kevin O'Connell, the head coach of the Vikings. We can get to that in a sec, where he's very cryptic about next year. Because I think Sam Darnold, with yesterday's game, he cost himself about $100 million. Because had they won, one win in the playoffs, if they were to go further, would be okay. And then they would probably re-sign him because, J.J. McCarthy may take a year or 2. He's coming off an injury before they put him in. Colson, fire away. So this is Kevin O'Connell after the game, post-game thoughts. See if you can hear or not hear what I heard on this.
A winning quarterback this year and the consistency at the times he had it throughout the year and what that meant for our team, because I think that can stay with him moving forward as he goes back to work. Proud of him, proud of really everybody in that locker room, but Sam and the journey him and I went on this year will always be something that's a special place in my heart for sure.
So you heard that. Stay with him moving forward.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Now that's not a vote of confidence. That is not. Oh yeah. No. He'll be back. He'll be our game 1 starter when the 2025 season kicks off. It was a great story, but in the past, outside of the past 2 games, he threw 35 touchdowns. And in the past 2 games against Detroit and then the game yesterday against the Rams, he threw 1. It was the Sam Darnold that we saw, high draft pick, but could never, ever, when it mattered most, seal the deal. And that's who showed up in the past couple of games. Because outside of that, he played great. It'll be interesting in an hour when Arash comes on. We'll talk about the purple tears and how it all fell apart. And it's so funny. And for a lot of people that are wondering about the Rams, and if you haven't paid attention to them this year, because right around Labor Day, I'm like, I don't know, this team kind of looks good. They started 1-4. There's no Aaron Donald on this team. That defense, like you mentioned, Bits, just a bunch of what we would probably consider no-name guys. And if you're a real NFL hardo, you probably know anything and everything about their defense. But for the most part, can you name 2 superstars on that defense? No, because there really isn't any. It's a collective effort.
That's right. Yeah, it is. Yeah, no, you're, and that's why also yesterday we're talking about some of the comments made by the commentary crew, that being Troy Aikman and Joe Buck. They talked about their DC, their defensive coordinator, that he's going to be up for probably a couple of open jobs in the offseason because of what he's done with that defense and how he's made them a force. And they showed it yesterday, right? And as you said, without stars, you can get everybody to buy in, and if you can really make it a team thing, that is a sign of a coach, of a prospect, a coaching prospect that's out there that maybe somebody make a good fit for somebody. And that, of course, is what they were talking about with their DC with the Rams.
By the time we got to sacks 6, 7, and 8, I was like, all right, enough already. This was getting bad. This was looking good. But the LA Rams game plan, I thought, was outstanding. Justin Jefferson, to me, I think is the best wide receiver in the NFL. And they did a great job in locking him down. And the thing with Minnesota is they don't have a bunch of other weapons. So if they're stocking up in the offseason, Justin Jefferson needs some help, because if you take him out of the game, which for the most part that they did, it kind of shut down their offense altogether. So there was really nowhere to go. So you'd have to think, if you're Minnesota, so funny. I think of Arash and I think of comedian Nick Swartzen, who are diehard Minnesota Viking fans that are probably agreed to be like, Justin Jefferson needs some help, because without him, they really became one-dimensional. And the run game wasn't going to get it done, because once they got down, they couldn't run the ball anymore. They had to start throwing because they had to try and play catch-up. So now, if you're the Philadelphia Eagles, now keep in mind, LA has to go to Philadelphia, and it's on a day less rest than everybody else. But who's to say that the Rams couldn't go in there and shock the world? Because the Eagles looked good against the Packers the other day, but they didn't look great.
Mm-hmm. No, that's true. Absolutely. And I that one's a tough one. If you are a betting man and you like to sprinkle, as one of our colleagues likes to say, as Barney likes to say, sprinkle on money on some different games and some different bets out there. That's a tough one, right? I think it became a whole lot tougher if somebody asked you the question, okay, what are you going to do with this game maybe 2-3 weeks ago? The Rams, Eagles, if they were to meet in the playoffs, you would say, well, that's going to be pretty lopsided. The Eagles at home, that one's going to be all Eagles. I can't see the Rams having a shot in that one. It's way different now. And for all the reasons we just talked about, and the big one being shutting down a receiver as well, too. You talked about Justin Jefferson, and that was obvious yesterday. And they had a few clips where the Rams defense was able to double team him and really just take him out of it. That could happen to A.J. Brown easily with the Eagles. And I see that matchup being a real tough one. I know it's in Philadelphia. I know that's a nut bar place to play, and I know they have an advantage there, a legit advantage there. Probably of all the home stadiums, maybe you could just say the Lions or the Bills, maybe more. I'm nothing against the folks at Arrowhead, but the Eagles fans are nut bars. So that is a real advantage for the Eagles there. But yeah, the Rams, I could see them taking out A.J. Brown and really focusing on Saquon Barkley. Gallimore and those guys up the middle there, that's going to be an interesting game. I'm really looking forward to that one on Sunday.
Well, the thing about A.J. Brown, like last game, if he only gets one ball thrown his way and he starts pouting, he'll take himself out of the game. Then you really only have to worry about Devonta Smith and Saquon Barkley. Now, Dallas Goedert as a tight end is great. Colson, did I send you that video of Dallas Goedert beating up that Green Bay? He did. If we have that ready to go, I don't know if you saw this. NFL Films had him mic'd up, and here's Dallas Goedert in the game. And it's one thing as a defender when you kind of get trucked by an offensive player, but Dallas Goedert should be charged with abuse on this for how many times he stiff arms this poor DB from Green Bay in the face. If you want to roll that, Colson.
And the cornerback is there, and he just beast modes him,
pushes
him in the face, not once, twice, and into the.
Yeah.
Necessary for sure. This one, now why not? Slow down so you can come and get some.
Derek, you're a defender. How hard is it? You're hanging your head walking back to your sideline, just knowing that you made the highlight film for all the wrong reasons. At least he didn't get pushed over and pushed to the ground, because that, to me, that's the ultimate stiff arm. Because Derrick Henry's done a few of those this year where he's knocked guys over.
Yeah. So I was just going to say, when that happened, I was watching that, and I said to my gal Andrea, said, he's lucky that it's the last game of the year, because if it wasn't, there's films that comes the next week, right? And so you're just, oh, no, I don't want to watch this on film. All the guys are going to talk about it. And maybe the DC would show you some mercy and say, okay, we're just going to get this over with. We're going to show how bids got whipped here on the way to the end zone a couple times with some straight arms. But that DB was caught in a tough spot, and I've been there before. When you're in a spot where you have to tackle a guy like that that's 6'5", 6'4", and weighs way more than you. In this case, it looked like he probably outweighed the DB by 50 pounds. And if you're chasing, you're in trouble because he can just keep you away, right? If you're coming at him, then you can obviously go for his ankles. You can take him low. But when you're beside him or chasing, he can just keep you out like that and just give you the Heisman all the way down the field, and you're caught, and you're just embarrassed, and you got nowhere to go. So at least this season's over for him, and he won't have to go through films with that. But I'm sure he's hearing it from his buddies. But, yeah, well-rounded Eagles offense. Goddard's definitely another guy that Hurts has to go to, and obviously he can make some yak yards after he makes that catch. One more comment I'll make on A.J. Brown, though, Maz. Did you catch him reading his book on the sideline when he wasn't getting passes thrown to him? Yeah. I don't know. They said it was some type of book about inspirational passages or something. Whatever he needs, I guess, to get him into it. But I don't know. I don't think you have to be old school to say, I don't know if I'd be so fired up about a guy just checking himself out of the game and reading a book on the sidelines during the game when he's my go-to receiver. I don't know if I'd be so fired up about that.
Yeah, so let's see. Divisional round this weekend. Saturday, Texans at Chiefs. Then Commanders at Lions. Sunday, Rams at Eagles. And then it's going to be Ravens at Bills, which to me, from the outside, this isn't breaking news, should be the game of the weekend because these are not, it's not to discount Kansas City. But with two MVP caliber quarterbacks, the Ravens and Bills game from the outset, stacking large to be the game. All right, time to take a break. Still to come this hour, we're going to hear from Riders GM Jeremy O'Day at the CFL winter meetings in North Carolina. But up next, we're going to take a trip down memory lane with former Saskatoon Blade and NHLer Clark Wilm on the all-new Sportscage, streaming at sportscage.com and on the radio at 620 CKRM.
The all-new Sports Cage is brought to you by Sherwood Co-op, proud supporter of our community with over 500 donations to local charities and nonprofits annually.
Join Saskag today at the Western Canadian Crop Production Show in Saskatoon, January 14th to 16th at Prairieland Park. Ryan Young and Doug Faulkner will bring you the very latest in the ag industry live from the show. Watch the stream and all of our latest content at saskagtoday.com. That's the Western Canadian Crop Production Show in Saskatoon, January 14th to 16th at Prairieland Park.
Sponsored by Kloss of America, Shorty Generators, and PlayNow.com.
0% financing on Bronco Sport, 0% financing on Ford F-150, 0% financing on Ford Escapes. You see the trend here? Future Ford has 0% financing on their huge selection of new vehicles. The 2024 has to go, and they need to make sure they have room for all the 25s they have coming. I know what you're thinking. 0%? What else can you do? How about free oil changes at any Ford dealership in Canada and half-price extended warranty? Check out their inventory at futureford.ca or visit them at Future Ford in Melville today.
Hey farmers, the Crop Production Show is here. Come on down and meet Core Grain and Hall C, booths C44 and C45, to chat with our experts about smarter grain storage and handling solutions. Core Grain is your trusted partner for grain storage solutions across the prairies, dedicated to offering you the best grain storage and handling systems. We work tirelessly to customize grain monitoring and conditioning systems to fit your specific binnyard plan, now and in the future. Core Grain, doing the right thing for your farm. See you at the Crop Production Show.
What do you think you're doing?
Bench presses. It's too cold to go to the gym, so I made one in the garage here. I'm going to wail on my pecs, and then I'm going to do my back.
Lester, since Busy Bee Doors fixed our garage door, you've been spending all your time in here.
That's because it's nice in here now. Do you mind? I'm trying to work out here. Unless you want to spot me.
Lester, you're not taking over this garage. You can be sure of that.
That's why I called Busy Bee.
Call Busy Bee Doors. They can fix or replace any commercial or garage door. Busy Bee Doors, the garage door specialists.
Welcome back to the all-new Sports Cage. Get social with us. Follow us on X at Sports Cage. Watch our video stream at sportscage.com and always on the radio at 620 CKRM.
An hour's time on the all-new Sports Cage. We'll have the weekly SJHL report with Benny Walchuk. That's brought to you by Southie Mainline Chrysler. Benny is traveling this afternoon. There's only, I believe, one game in the SJ tonight. and then a bunch of games tomorrow. We'll do that. It's Maz here filling in for Barney. Eric Bidwell is at the Crop Production Show in Saskatoon, and he's joined by a former Saskatoon Blade. He was the 150th overall pick in the 95 draft from the Calgary Flames. He played for the Flames, the Preds, and the Leafs. Welcome to the program, Clark Wilm, ladies and gentlemen. Clark, question number one. First of all, thanks for coming on. Do you still get recognized by Blades fans of old and people? Because I remember those glory years. You played on some really good hockey teams for the Blades.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, I do every now and then. I've got boys that are at the age where they want to go to games, and we're in the rink lots. So run into lots of fans around the city that enjoyed the teams we had there in the early 90s.
Do you still keep up with the boys? I'm friends with a couple of them too. So obviously we're talking about Rhett Warner and some of those guys, maybe Andy McIntyre. I don't know. Probably a few guys that you still do. I'm sure I know you keep up with Warrensy, but those guys from back in the day?
Yeah, for sure. Talked to Rhett quite a bit. And then Chad Allen, he lives in Davidson. He farms there. So right. I see him quite a bit. And around the time Mooner was getting his name to the rafters, started a group chat with a bunch of the guys that we played together. So it's kind of kept on, and there's probably 15 or 20 of us on there. So it's a good group.
It's got to be nice to be a part of a few alumni, though, right? Because obviously you have the Saskatoon Blades alumni, and mentioned some of those guys. And those are names that everybody here in Saskatoon would recognize. But beyond Saskatoon, maybe not so much, besides Rhett, of course, with his time there with the Flames. But it has to be nice to be part of other alumni as well, too. Toronto Maple Leafs alumni, the Calgary Flames alumni, those things also.
Yeah, for sure. It's, you look back at it now, and it was a very cool experience and got to live out a childhood dream. So you meet so many great people in hockey, and to be part of an alumni. Calgary's got an excellent alumni. Toronto does also. I don't really get back there very much, so not a ton to do with them. But yeah, Calgary, there's a lot of guys there, so try to get back for the golf tournament and do as many things as I can with them.
Now, one of the teams you played for was the Nashville Predators. And Nashville today, which is this hotspot mecca tourist place, and every stagette party in North America goes there, and every country star has a giant bar, and the hockey team's a party. But Nashville was different when you played there. Did you know when you were there, because it was a completely different situation, that Nashville would become a really good hockey market like it's turned out to be?
I don't know if it's a huge surprise. I think there's obviously a lot of entertainment there. So the people, it was early in Nashville's existence, I think 5 years in when I was down there. So we got great crowds. It maybe wasn't as big as now, but there was a hockey following there. They were starting to get rinks going, and once guys, I think a huge benefit to all the cities in the States is once guys play there, usually a good portion of them stay there and set up their homes there, and their kids grow up. So there's once you start getting a bunch of hockey guys into the culture, and you start getting a bunch of kids coming out and playing hockey, it just over the last 20 years it's grown.
Did you develop any friendships with any country music stars while you were there? Did you have any interesting meetings or I want to ask you for interesting stories, because I'm sure there's lots of stories, but a lot of those you might not be able to tell, like we always hear. But any interesting meetings with country stars or guys that came down and wanted to talk with you guys at the locker room or anything like that?
Yeah, there was always some guys around. I think Vince Gill was there quite a bit. And Garth Brooks was around, and actually Kid Rock was there. You'd see him around and chat with him every now and then. So yeah, it was a great place to play. Like I said, it was just kind of starting out, so the team wasn't great. But as far as living there, and I like country music, and so spent some time in Tootsie's.
Yeah, I'm sure. Matt, go ahead.
Oh, that must have been a ton of fun. All right, so you said you've got kids. You're in the rinks nowadays, and so you're watching the Western Hockey League product in 2025. Are the kids just that much more talented, better prepared to play hockey today than back when all of us were growing up playing hockey, physically, mentally?
Yeah, I guess they probably obviously the game's changed a ton. It's a lot more freewheeling. There's a lot more space out there, so it's faster and equipment's better. And I bring out some of my equipment for the kids to look at, and they think it's from the 1800s. Like a 2-piece stick is just, what is this thing? So
yeah,
all that has made things a lot better. Skates, equipment, everything, training. So yeah, like my boys are 12, 14, and 16, and they're working out in the summer and personal trainers and stuff like that. So it's definitely started maybe at a younger age where they're starting to get a lot more of not just the hockey skills side, but they're starting to learn how to eat right and work out and do all that stuff. It's starting a lot earlier now. So yeah, I think it was my third year in the Blades before I really started to work out. So it, you went for a jog a week before camp and lifted some weights, and I'm good. But
that's what
it's changed.
Yeah, I hear that from the guys in an era before you. You'll hear them say, "Yeah, I started my off-season training. Last 2-3 weeks before the season started in the NHL, I would just cut back on the brewskis and like you said, maybe go for a jog, some push-ups, some jumping jacks, a little more specialized now." But do you almost feel it starts too early? It almost seems like you have to keep up with the Joneses, because if kids are doing it at this age, then you almost feel like if you're like, well, I got to get started on off-season training because everybody else is doing it. It just seems to be earlier and earlier and earlier for these kids, which are still just kids,
No, exactly. So just to use my kids, for example, like Ryder's 16 playing midget AAA. So I moved away when I was a year younger than him, and I look at him and like, they're so young. Like I can't imagine what my parents thought when I was 15 years old and going from Central Butte to Saskatoon. Like you're still a young kid. So it, but onto the part about starting too early, I think it's good for kids to golf and go to the lake and do lots of stuff in the summer and not just be in the rink all the time. But yeah, you definitely, if your kids really want to do it, you have to find a kind of happy medium where they can be in the rink enough and also have enough of a life outside the rink where they're not just playing hockey. They're doing lots of other things, because there's lots of other sports and there's lots of other things you can do that they're great also.
In reference to things being different now, I was going to ask you as well too, sorry Maz, about obviously something that is a hot topic with minor hockey and the CHL, and that is the changing of the rules with the NCAA and players in the CHL now being allowed to go to play in the NCAA. Your thoughts on that? And would you love that rule to have been around when you were playing in the CHL?
I think it's great. I remember back when I played, I think if you played a game in the WHL, then you were ineligible to go down to the States, which doesn't make any sense. Some kids at 16, 17, 18, their path is they're going to be in the NHL, and some kids, when they get a little older, that might be their path. So I think it's great to have that option for guys in the CHL. And for me, it was never an option. I wanted to play in the WHL, and that's just kind of the way it was. But I grew up a Moose Jaw Warriors fan, and that's kind of what I saw from a young kid. I didn't, 30 years ago, there wasn't a lot of internet. I didn't put a lot of stock in going and playing in Brown University or Boston University. Growing up in Central Butte, honestly, I had no clue what it was. So, there was no other option for me but the WHL.
Well, you said you've got 3 kids. If they were all playing hockey, just the stick budget alone for the family would blow my mind. Because I remember back in the day when a coho used to be like $30 and mom and dad used to freak out. I can't imagine when sticks are $200 to $300 this year. All right, the World Junior Championships, your ex-teammate Rhett Warner, I saw him on social media a couple days after it all unfolded where Canada ends up losing out. And he had said, hey, it's not the kids' fault. We cheer for whoever puts on that jersey. But the other part of Hockey Canada, there's a lot of people that should still be out of the system, and it needs a refresh. Where do you come in on all of that? You played junior hockey, and I'm sure you probably watched Do you think that it needs an overhaul, and then maybe some of the old guard still hanging around needs to be changed out and a complete reboot?
Yeah, I guess that's kind of whenever the World Junior team doesn't do well, that's kind of what goes on in Canada. And when you win, everything's good, and when you don't, everything needs to be looked at. So yeah, I agree with what Brett said. There's probably a lot of stuff that could change, and on the flip side, there's a lot of great things that go on in that program. So yeah, like if you don't win, you got to reassess things and go from there.
One thing that I heard people bring up is that that they need to quit trying to build a team or create a team built on characters or role players or people fitting in different spots. Just bring in the best players and then put them in the spots and put them in the system that you would like. Your thoughts on that? Do you see it the same way, or some people maybe see it the other way also still?
Yeah, I think there's some merit to having the best players, but also I see the flip side. Like, I think Canada's won a lot of gold medals, bringing not the most skilled players and finding a role for guys. And I think the flip side is you have to look at all these other countries like Finland and Sweden and Czech. Like, they're not getting worse at hockey. They're getting better. So that gap is definitely closed. So, yeah, I think the teams that we're playing are getting a lot better. And so we just, to say that if we just brought all the best players, it would have been different. Maybe it would have, maybe not.
We're chatting with Clark Wilm on the Western Pizza guest hotline here. They're at the crop production show in Saskatoon. You mentioned him earlier in the interview, Lauren Mollican, former coach of the Saskatoon Blades. What made Mooner such a good coach? He had such a great career in the Dub.
Yeah, just before I get on to Mooner, one more thing about the Hockey Canada stuff. Like, those kids that were there and played are amazing. Like, we can't take anything away from them. They're all really good hockey players and going to have great hockey careers. So, but yeah, Mooner was very intense. I think he got the most out of his teams. He was a player's coach, and you wanted to run through the wall for him. So he knew what he had to do to get his players to play well, and he knew what system wise he had stuff he wanted us to do, and he demanded that we did it or he didn't play. So he had a great career in the WHL and some games in the NHL and also AHL. So he was motivation wise, he was good, and he was very demanding.
We, of course, are our Sasky sports show. Sportscage is just your thoughts on some of those old rivalries when you have a chance to look back at them. Still, one barn still in play, and that would be the one in Prince Albert that you played in. But Moose Jaws is a new one, and just a little bit more on some of those old barns and those old rivalries that you had as a member of the Blades.
Yeah, so spending some obviously going up into PA and watching as a fan now, I think back to we used to play them. If we met them in the playoffs, we played them 7 or 8 times during the year, and then preseason too. So you're playing guys 20 times a year. Plus, their team kind of grew up the same as our Blades team, so you played those guys for 4 or 5 years in a row. So there was no love lost there, and it. Sometimes it was a long bus ride up to PA because you knew it was going to be a gong show. But once you hit the ice, it was a lot of fun.
And then you could carry those. You could probably carry some of those trash talking sessions from one game to the next. You could pick it up where you left off if there's a guy that you're probably always beaking with, I'm sure, throughout the year.
For sure. For me, it was, guys like Toporowski and Dennis Peterson, like played against them in midget, and then all through my Blades career and their Raiders career. So you're going head to head and just battling nonstop for years on end. So there was lots of hatred towards those two guys until you meet them, and then I played with Petey in Nashville, and they're great guys.
Yeah.
Who was the one goalie you hated the most in the Western Hockey that you faced that either had your number or for whatever reason it just never went well? Everybody's always got somebody that just is the one person they never wanted to face.
A goalie? probably Steve Passmore out in Kamloops just from playing in the finals. Like, he always had something to say, and he was good, and we obviously fell one game short. So that would probably be the one goalie that comes to mind. It did that kind of had my number, our number, and always had something to say about it.
That's always the worst, is when the guy that's chirping you is also really good too, like that, especially a tender, because he's chirping you and then he's backing it up. So it stings a little bit more. We talked about the Flames. We talked about the Nashville Predators in your time there. Obviously, as we mentioned as well, too, you're a member of the Toronto Maple Leafs. You hear this quite often. People say that it's tough to play there, that you're under a microscope. Just your thoughts on what it's like playing in probably the greatest hockey market, you'd have to say, in the NHL. At least the fans are the most intense, it sure seems like, from the outside.
Yeah, no question. I loved it there, though. Like, I love my time in Toronto. You get recognized everywhere.
Yeah,
you go. It doesn't matter where you are. You get recognized by the fans, and the fans there are amazing. But they want you to win, and can be demanding when you don't. But also, I think the time I was there, I was lucky. There was a few Hall of Famers on the teams that I played on. And, Eddie Belfour and Matt Sundin and guys like that. So the team was good, and there was lots of excitement around the city.
Last one before I let you jump into Mass. Sorry, but you just mentioned Eddie Belfour. We're talking about tenders and chirping and personalities. What was Eddie like? Because, of course, we heard it. He was obviously a character, but just your thoughts on Eddie when you played with him.
You didn't go near him during game days. You didn't.
Is that right?
Yeah, you didn't want to touch his equipment by accident, or you might break a stick over your head. He was pretty intense, and he worked. You can see why he had such a great career. He worked his butt off every day, but when you think of goalies
being quirky or different,
he was definitely that way, but just very intense and wanted to win. But don't touch his equipment. He spent more time working on his equipment than anybody.
Gotcha. Matt?
All right. Well, Clark, thanks for taking some time to drop by. We appreciate you having on the show. You're welcome back anytime. We always love talking hockey, old-time hockey stories with anybody that ever played in the Western Hockey League. We appreciate it. We're going to take a break here on the all-new Sports Cage. It's brought to you by Sask Lotteries. When we come back, we're going to hear from Voice of the Riders Dave Thomas and Riders GM Jeremy O'Day from the winter meetings going on in North Carolina. We'll do that in just a sec. We're streaming the show at sportscage.com and on the radio at 620 CKRM.
Nobody knows the equipment market like Ritchie Brothers. If you're selling heavy equipment and trucks, Ritchie Brothers will get you the most buyers, industry expertise, and the widest selection of custom selling solutions. Sell equipment your way, from your yard or a Ritchie Brothers facility. Ritchie Brothers will drive demand for your assets like no one else can. Contact your local territory manager today to get started. Visit rbauction.com to learn more about selling with Ritchie Brothers.
Clear your calendar for Manitoba Egg Days, happening January 21st through 23rd at the Keystone Centre in Brandon. This year, you can take in over 550 exhibitors, including the new Produced on the Prairies Market. And with 34 entries in the Innovation Showcase and over 60 complimentary speakers, you won't want to miss this year's show. You can find all the info you need and purchase admission tickets at eggdays.com. Manitoba Egg Days, where the egg year begins.
Please, sir, can I have some warmth?
Warmth? You want warmth?
You didn't call Busy Bee, did you? Now it's winter and all the homeless rats are getting in.
I wish they had fixed that door then. It's dreadfully cold.
Go over there and eat your gruel. They gave you more. If rats are getting in your garage, just call Busy Bee. They can fix or replace any commercial or garage door.
Please, sir.
Shut up. Busy Bee Doors, the garage door specialists.
The all-new Sports Cage. Watch our live stream at sportscage.com and on the radio at 620 CKRM.
The show is brought to you by the Canadian Brew House. Wing Wednesdays are unbeatable at the Canadian Brew House. Only 69 cents each and a mountain of flavors to savor and a flavor of the month. Do that wing thing every Wednesday at the Canadian Brew House. It's Maz in for Barney. He'll be back in tomorrow. If you want to get in touch with the show, you can. You can always call us at 866-767-0620 or text us 306 936-6262. It was a pretty good day in Riderville yesterday when we found out that the Riders signed Jameer Thurman, star middle linebacker, to a 2-year contract extension. He was the number one target, not only on my list, but I think a lot of Rider fans' list after the performance he had on the field last year. That was a big priority. So good job, J.O. and the rest of the staff in the Rider front office. Earlier today, Voice of the Riders Dave Thomas had a chance to catch up with Jeremy O'Day at the winter meetings going on in North Carolina.
Jeremy O'Day, maybe we'll start with the signing of Jameer Thurman. It was announced yesterday. What does that mean to your roster?
Yeah, sure. I mean, Jameer's obviously on the football side of things is a very good football player and veteran guy that's had a lot of success in this league and played at a high level. And then, what he brings to the locker room is invaluable, coming to a new team and trying to get used to the players in the locker room and the coaching staff. And also trying to develop yourself into a leader of a new team is often challenging, but he did a nice job of that. And he's just a natural leader, great work ethic, and someone you definitely want to build your defense around.
Now, he did sign a 2-year deal. What's the significance of the term of that deal?
It's important. It's good to have continuity. I think that Jameer was also looking for that, making somewhere his home. And obviously credit to our coaching staff and Corey and just our organization as a whole, making them feel welcome and making them feel that it's a place that he wants to stay for a long period of time. So it was nice to sign the 2-year deal. Those are always good, especially when you're talking about someone that's a core player on your team.
Now, the other big move recently, Mr. O'Day, is the fact that you acquired Jake Mayer from Calgary. Can you take me through the process and the decisions when it came to making that move and then eventually, of course, having the opportunity to re-sign him?
After we identified, what we wanted to do at quarterback, it's one of those situations where do you wait to free agency to talk to somebody, or is there a possibility for you to, make a trade? The team that, probably isn't bringing them back gains something in the draft pick, and then we have exclusive rights to talk to them for an extended period of time before free agents. So kind of went back and forth with it, to be honest, and just decided to reach out to Calgary and see if they'd be willing to do it. And then once we agreed to the draft pick, was kind of just a no-brainer for us to get a chance to talk to him. And still some risk there, being able to get him signed before free agency, but we felt the reward was worth the risk.
So obviously roster construction is well underway. From your standpoint, what positions are you looking to address right now?
Sure. I think offensively, I'll start offensively. We're pretty, we're in a pretty good place offensively, just with the number of guys that we have under contract or that we've signed back. A large list of the starters will be back from last year. If I had a position that we would be looking at to still do some work on, would be Canadian O-linemen. Usually you want to have a good group of those guys, especially with the amount of injuries that we've had on the offensive line the last number of years. But we still got some work to do there. On defense, we're still working on some of the free agents. I think if you look at our defensive line, it's an area where what's our plan there on the defensive line, and where will we go there? We've got a number of potential free agents that are still free agents that we're working through, and that would probably be an area that we'll look to address either in free agency, whether it's from our negotiation list or whether it's from the draft.
Whether you're entering a game or building a roster, there's obviously a game plan. And with that game plan, there's improvisation that comes along with it. Is that the same when you're negotiating a salary? You have a game plan with someone when it comes to a contract negotiation, and then there's an improvisation. Like, how does that work?
Well, I think what you do, at least how I do it, is when we decide on kind of players we want to offer contracts back, you kind of try to figure out what the value or what the cost would be to retain the player. and it always changes, Dave. It's never what you think. You try to make a your best guess from the information you have of kind of where the player would sit. But you don't actually know until you get into it with the agents. Agents are always communicating with every team, so they have an idea of what the player's value is, and then ultimately, sometimes you got to pivot and make changes and this amount, but it's going to be much higher than you may pivot and say, okay, maybe we need to shift where we're allocating our salary cap money to. So it does change quite a bit as you go through the process. You ultimately develop a plan in the beginning, and then as you gather information, which is a big part of it, trying to gather as much information you can from players and agents, then you're kind of deciding on how your team's going to be set up. And sometimes there's more availability of certain positions in free agency, so eventually someone's going to fall down, and you can get some value out of some of those players. But it's kind of definitely a fluid situation when you're dealing with cap.
Also, just to build upon, you mentioned the continuity earlier, whether it was with the core of the roster or the coaching staff in general. Having that continuity, and as much as you do year over year, what does that afford you? What is the advantage that affords you?
I think the big thing is when you start training camp, you're just ahead of the game, where everyone's already familiar with everything as small as the buildings you're in for training camp, where you're going. And then obviously the playbook, the installation is kind of second nature for the guys because they've already been through it. And then also the players are familiar with the coaches are familiar with the players, which helps with the team building process. So, when you play next to people that you played with from the year before, it kind of becomes second nature on when what they're going to do in different situations. So experience matters. I know a lot of people are always hoping for the next star to be introduced into our league, which is always great, but we're also looking for continuity with veteran players.
620 CKRM is your home to country's greatest hits and the 90s at 9. 1 full hour featuring the biggest hits of the 90s. Garth, Reba, Alan, Shania, George, and so much more. No cassette tape or CDs required, and 90s mullets are optional. 90s at 9 for the town of Wolseley and the voice of Saskatchewan. 620 CKRM.
Hockey is back, and what better way to kick off the season than a visit to Extreme Hockey and Sports? Check out the Bauer Fit Lab for your custom skate fitting. And stay tuned for the new shooting lane to provide customers with the best shopping experience as possible. And off the ice, look great. Visit their umbrella marketing professionals for all your team and corporate apparel. Extreme Hockey and Sport, 1425 McIntyre Street and the Pro Shop, conveniently located at the Cooperator Center.
It's Power Bill Day.
This is Tim.
Hooray, hooray, it's Power Bill Day.
Tim loves getting his monthly power bill because Tim's power bill is teeny. Tim has a residential solar system from Keln Solar. It powers his home, and excess power is sent back to the grid for credits on his Sask power bill.
Give me those savings. Yeah.
Get a teeny tiny power bill.
Just like me. Woo!
Get a quote on a Keln Solar residential solar system at kelnsolar.com.
Regina's Greek community invites you to an Evening in Greece 2025 gala on Saturday, March 8th at Delta Regina. Cocktails and reception are at 5:30. Then enjoy authentic Greek cuisine with live entertainment and dance to follow. You could even win a dream vacation for 2 to Greece. That's an Evening in Greece 2025 gala Saturday, March 8th at Delta Regina. Get your tickets by calling 306-536-4299, email eigYQR@gmail.com, or check them out on Facebook. In support of the Hospitals of Regina Foundation.
CoolBet has all the hot games. For all the free-to-play casino games, head to coolbet.co. They've got sports odds, including Saskatchewan senior hockey, plus all the sports odds you can think of, from the ice to the field to the court. CoolBet has you covered. All at your fingertips. No risk, just thrill. So why wait? Get in the game and embrace the unexpected at coolbet.co.
The all-new Sportscage is live streaming from our Century Studios in downtown Regina. Watch now at sportscage.com. Be part of the show by texting 306-936-6262. 620 CKRM.
Thanks for being part of the show today. It's brought to you by Sask Lotteries, a real light night for local hockey in Saskatchewan. Only one game in midget AAA. This is a rescheduled game from November 23rd. Saskatoon contacts in Yorkton to play the Maulers. SJ, there's only the one game tonight, but first place is on the line. Larange is in Weyburn, and with a win, the Wings could jump 1 point ahead of the Yorkton Terriers for first place. We will do the SJHL report with Benny Walchuk in less than an hour's time for Southie Mainline Chrysler. We'll get Benny's take on that. I don't know. Maybe it's because of the play-by-play guy that the Yorkton Terriers are in first place. I don't know. I'm just saying. And only one game in the dub. Portland Winterhawks in PA to take on the Raiders. As Clark Will mentioned, going up there. It's called the Art Hauser Center now, but it just used to be the community. That's where he used to play many battles. Last night, there were 3 games in NHL. Calgary and Chicago. Jacob Peltier had 2 goals and assists. The Flames beat the Blackhawks 5-2. Did you see this after the game? I get it. Connor Bedard has the weight of the world on his shoulders. But a reporter asked him about him getting his 100th point, and he's like, basically, like, I don't care. It's not important. There's bigger things going on. We'd all love to be rich and famous, right? But would you want to trade spots with him? Because it looks like he is having zero fun at all this season. With not only how it's going, but it's too much.
I understand. He's such a competitor, right? So that's why he's not enjoying himself. And I'm a competitor too. I mean, I want to win. It's not much fun to travel around and be with your teammates when you're losing all the time. But, it's still not that terrible of a life. Dude, if you have the skill that Connor Bedard does and you have the future income that Connor Bedard is going to have, you find a little way to smile, I guess. But, yeah, he's just so competitive. He just wants to win right now. But I totally understand where he's coming from. Somebody says, hey, congratulations, you did this, and you're like, we lost 5-2. Like there's not, what do you want from me? This is a lose-lose situation for me. I can't say I'm going to look like a grump if I don't say anything about it. And if I do say something about it, people are going to say that I'm too worried about my own stats. So you just got to just give a generic cliche right there, I think, and just move on. But it seems like it's not the best time for Connor in Chicago right now, but I'm sure good times will be in his future. But yes, super competitive guy, finding it a little tough right now.
I've said this before. You can't expect an 18-year-old player. I don't care if Connor Bedard or whatever. Look at Sam Bennett with the Flames, and keep in mind, Sam Bennett nowhere near the talent of Bedard. You can't expect an 18-year-old kid to save your franchise. It's not going to happen. He can't make up for all the other 21 other roster decisions that have been bad or roster construction. And I'm wondering now, the only 2 general managers I think that would probably ever have the stones to do this. It's screwy that a kid, so Bedard can either play in the dub or the NHL, but he's still too young to go to the American Hockey League and get seasoning. The only 2 general managers I could think when he get old enough to have the stones to actually do that would be a Julian Brisebois in Tampa, who believes they breed their guys. And then the original guy that did that, the Yzer plan, Stevie Yzerman, where if you were going to be part of the Wings or if you were in Tampa, is no. Doesn't matter who you are. You're going to go to the minors, and you're going to have to. I mean, look at Shane Wright. Shane Wright got drafted by Seattle, came up. People that he's played in the minors. Now he's coming up and he's getting it. I feel bad for Bedard because it just seems like he's got the weight of the world on his shoulders. Panthers, Flyers last night. Noah Cates had 2 goals as the Flyers rallied to beat the Panthers 4-3. And Kings and Oilers, and Eric Francis said it yesterday, the LA Kings play the most boring style of hockey, and it's hard to watch. All they do is clog up the middle. So last night, you had Connor McDavid on his 28th birthday score the only goal, and Stuart Skinner get the shutout. 1-0. Do you think 7 games of that in the playoffs is going to be some must-not-see TV? Oh, man.
Well, you know what it is. It comes to people trying to. You just got to try to win, as you know, Maz. And if you don't have the talent there, you don't have the horses in the stable to go toe to toe with maybe a team like the Oilers that does. Then you got to come up with a system that's just going to, it might be boring, but hey, you just win. We got a guy going by me right now, and he's just saying you guys should talk about the Montreal Canadiens. He likes the Montreal Canadiens. We'll talk about them in just a second. Yeah, because they are playing the best hockey of their year right now. They actually. And there's also a weird story there.
Look at that. And somebody wants to talk about the Montreal Canadiens, and we're out of time, and we got to go to news. It's the all-new Sportscage on 620 CKRM.
It's 4 o'clock. Good afternoon. It's mostly cloudy and it's minus 10 in Regina. I'm Corey Atkinson from the Harvard Media News Center with 620 CKRM News. The Saskatchewan government says it's sending 16 provincial law enforcement officers to the Canada-U.S. border to shore up security. Premier Scott Moe says the officers will patrol high-priority areas north of the border, equipped with a mobile command unit, license plate readers, drones, snowmobiles, and 3 planes. He says the measures are partly in response to concerns raised by U.S. President-elect Donald Trump, who's threatened to impose a 25% tariff on Canadian goods.
If the President-elect Trump has identified border security as one of the issues that he would like us to be working on collectively, you're seeing this announcement here today. You've seen other provincial announcements, and you've seen a federal initiative. And I think those all point towards a more secure border for not only Canadians, but for all North Americans.
Moe says the officers won't assume federal responsibilities and are to only complement enforcement efforts to protect the border from domestic and international threats. This year's inductees into the Saskatchewan Agricultural Hall of Fame have been announced. They include Dr. Robert Boers, the late Frank Bourgeot, his son Frank, the late Harold Martins, Dr. Grant Royan, and Bill Wilson. The Hall of Fame class of 2025 will be formally inducted at a ceremony at Prairieland Park on Saturday, April 26th. A summary of each inductee's accomplishments can be found at saskagtoday.com. The Saskatchewan Public Safety Agency is offering aid to California as it battles wildfires. Through a Canadian Interagency Forest Fire Centre, Saskatchewan has offered a Bird Dog aircraft, 3,000 feet of hose, and 10 firefighters. Minister Tim McLeod says the province knows the impact of wildfires firsthand and is glad to support others. The SPSA is also waiting for the next steps on deploying these resources. Since its founding in 2017, the SPSA has provided emergency management and wildlife response, as well as Sask 911 and Sask Alert services across Saskatchewan. And as firefighters battle the wildfires in Southern California, the state is watching out for price gouging.
Under California law, during an emergency, prices on housing and goods can only go up by 10%. Warren Skidmore lost his home in the Eaton fire.
My kids are great kids, and they've grown up in that house, and that was their place. And they've lost their place.
He says the price of the rental they're staying in is set to go up 43% a night next week. Price gouging is illegal under the emergency. State Attorney General Rob Bonta.
It is a crime.
Alex Stone, ABC News, Los Angeles.
And Industry Minister Francois-Philippe Champagne says Canada and the U.S. should do more together than enter a tariff war. But if the tariff becomes a reality, Champagne says Canada will respond strongly. Champagne says Canada is the biggest consumer of the U.S. and the country buys more from the U.S. than China, Japan, the U.K. and France combined. That's your 620 CKRM News. Read more stories from around your community and around the province at sasktoday.ca and 620ckrm.com. Your weather is next.
Are you a young farmer or agriculture professional working in Saskatchewan? The 2025 Proudly Ag Conference will be held in Saskatoon on February 5th and 6th and will feature John Gormley and presenters from across Saskatchewan. Register today to connect with other agriculture producers and professionals while learning about farm expansion planning, communications in agriculture, and important industry insight. Follow them on social media and register today. Registration and full agenda available at saskyoungag.ca.
Hey farmers, the Crop Production Show is here. Come on down and meet Core Grain and Hall C, booths C44 and C45 to chat with our experts about smarter grain storage and handling solutions. Core Grain is your trusted partner for grain storage solutions across the prairies, dedicated to offering you the best grain storage and handling systems. We work tirelessly to customize grain monitoring and conditioning systems to fit your specific vineyard plan, now and in the future. Core Grain, doing the right thing for your farm. See you at the Crop Production Show.
And now it's time for your 620 CKRM Precision Weather Forecast for Linex Regina. Serious protection, killer looks, 1865 McCarra Street. Tonight, partly cloudy with a low of -7 and the temperature rising to -1 overnight. Tomorrow, mostly sunny and a brisk wind with a high temperature of +1. And then on Thursday, partly to mostly sunny and still windy with a high temperature of +1 again. At this hour in Moose Jaw, it's mostly cloudy. Winds are from the west at 11 and it's -5. Regina is also mostly cloudy. Winds are from the south at 12 and it's -10. For more local news that matters to you, subscribe to our daily newsletter at sasktoday.ca.
When you want the best for your truck, you want Line-X. Your truck has withstood the harshest elements Saskatchewan has thrown at it. Rocks, gravel, rain, sleet, and snow, and left with no chips, no rust. Line-X protective coating keeps your truck's bed liners, rocker panels, and bumpers looking like brand new. Don't settle for Brand X. Go with Line-X. It's serious protection. Come see why everybody loves taking their truck to Line-X Regina for their rocker panels, bumpers, and more. Line-X. Make your truck complete. 1865 McCarra Street.
What's going on in the markets? When is the right time to invest? What should you do with your money today? When Len had questions, he talked to Brian Gawley.
Brian and I sat down, spent quite a bit of time with me initially, and explained to me how he does things, how his business works, and I was pretty impressed. So ever since then, I've moved everything over, and I've been really happy with him.
You don't have to plan your financial future alone. Call Brian Gawley of Smart Investing Solutions. 306-546-2533.
I would recommend him to anyone.
Broadcasting from Century Studios in downtown Regina, Harvard Media presents the all-new Sports Cage, where Saskatchewan comes to talk local sports. Brought to you by Sask Lotteries, bringing communities together. Sask Lottery products fund over 12,000 sports, culture, and recreation groups across Saskatchewan. Be a part of the show. Call 1-866-767-0620 or text 306-936-6262. The all-new Sports Cage. Streaming at sportscage.com and on the radio at 620 CKRM.
Hour 2 of the show is underway. It's Maz here filling in for Barney. Derek Bidwell is live at the Crop Production Show in Saskatoon. And if you missed Hour 1, we had Clark Wilm, former Saskatoon Blade, former Calgary Flame, Nashville Predator, and Toronto Maple Leaf on the show. You can catch the podcast at sportscage.com. In just a couple of minutes, we'll go coast to coast with Rash Madani. And in about an hour's time, Glenn Suter will be on the radio with us, as Suits is every Tuesday and Thursday. We'll get his thoughts on the signing of Jake Mayer, new Saskatchewan Roughrider quarterback, and the Jameer Thurman 2-year extension, which Jeremy O'Day also talked about in hour number 1, and how important that was for the Riders to get him under contract. And the good thing is, though, and Derek, you heard that, where Jameer is looking to plant some roots and have a little life stability. And this is why the 2-year deal made sense. And I love it because the CFL and all the 1-year deals, it just kills continuity. Not just with us, but that's every team.
Absolutely, yeah. And you want those consistent relationships between fans and the players. And, you're a fan. There's somebody you become a big follower of them, if you will, a fan of them. If you're a fan of the Riders, there's somebody on the team that you just, all of a sudden they're your favorite player and they're somebody that you really, really, really root for. Well, you get the jersey and all of that, right? And maybe you get to meet them in a couple of Riders meet and greets. And next thing you know, they're gone again, right? So, no, you want some guys to stick around for a while. And not just the quarterbacks. You want some of the other players as well, too, some of the other key pieces to stick around for a while. So great. 2-year deals, awesome. Good for guys, especially like Thurman, that you want in the green and white for a little bit of a longer period of time.
Yeah, well, continuity, no different. Every time we're at Mosaic Stadium this past year, the number one jersey that you would see was Dressler. I'd see more of those than anybody else. And number 2 was Durant. Sure. And then I don't know. Number 3 was a wild card because then it started getting into anybody and everybody after there. But number 1 is Dressler. Number 2 is Durant. And that does not happen without these guys sticking around for a while. I mean, it helps when the team's good and the team's winning, but you can't blame these guys. They got to try and make as much money as they can, and the careers are short. But Jameer Thurman locked up for a couple of years, and the other big signing yesterday was Malik Carney. And J.O. had said in that interview, they have a good amount of starters coming back, and he had said, you're not going to be able to keep everybody. Nobody can. And word came out today, and we'll have Ed Hervey on the radio here before the hour is through, that they're going to let Geno Lewis go to free agency. They tried to talk about an extension or whatever. Maybe they just, Geno Lewis is going to cash in. Darian and I talked about this yesterday, and he's said from day one, the Riders need a number one wide receiver. They can just take the top off the defense and be a threat all over the place. And a guy like a Geno Lewis would fit that bill. It'll be interesting now if the Elks are going to let him go to free agency. Is that something that we're in on? I'd have no problem with him being in green and white.
No, I wouldn't either. No, you mentioned we have a great group of receivers, but a one that could probably be the go-to guy, like you said, in your star. Yeah, that would be great because taking the top off the defense, as you mentioned, and then we have a lot of guys that could be a great supporting cast, if you will. Not to say that they're just fill-in guys, because they're not. They got incredible, you talk about Keane Schaefer-Baker, you talk about Emilus, you talk about a lot of these guys, Keyshawn Johnson, but yeah, if you could bring in a number one guy in there, a real number one go-to guy, that would just create more openings for those guys. And I think as a group, man, that would be a dream for Harris or Mayer, whoever's going to be taking the snaps from the center.
All right, this is the all-new Sports Cage. It's brought to you by Sask Lotteries. It's time now to go coast to coast with Arash Madani.
The all-new Sports Cage and Coast to Coast with Arash Madani is brought to you by Smart Investing Solutions. Be smart with your money. Call Brian Golly at Smart Investing Solutions, 546-2533.
Arash joins us on the Western Pizza Guest Hotline. Arash, if we were to give this a hashtag and this were to live on Twitter, mine is simple. It's 2 words. Purple Tears.
Oh,
Minnesota
man.
Vikings. Happy New Year, by the way. Let's start with Happy New Year. Haven't chatted in a while. Always good to have you on. Colson, uncalled for. That is not, if you're watching the stream, that is not nice. Who did that?
What has Colson done now? Now?
It's the crying Jordan face in the Minnesota Vikings helmet.
Everything is justified. I'm not even mad at it, Colson. It is well-deserved. This is a franchise that you would only have to expect that this would happen to them in January. Of course they forgot to learn how to block and throw and tackle and run and do all the things that are required in, the tackle football industry.
Were you surprised? Are you surprised, Arash, that it was? I was that it was that one-sided, and I think Maz had a good reference that it seemed like, and I know his O-line was banged up, but it seemed like Sam Darnold fell back into the old Sam Darnold that was with the Jets and the Carolina Panthers and his other stops. It just seemed like he fell back to that.
No, I'm just going to stop that. I think it's a lazy, easy narrative that's been going on the last 2 weeks. You know what it actually reminds me of is the foolishness around Henry Burris. Whenever Henry would throw a pick in November, it was like people were just waiting to jump down his throat. That Henry couldn't win a big game. And then I think he retired with, 3 Grey Cup rings, 2 as a starter. If you watch that game, that's not Sam Darnold's fault. It's not Sam Darnold's fault he didn't have a left tackle. It's not Sam Darnold's fault that the interior of the offensive line couldn't block anybody, that they couldn't establish the run. That in the first half, the Rams, I don't think anybody touched a ball carrier until at least 7 yards after they had crossed the line of scrimmage. Okay, Darnold held the ball a little too long a few times, yes. But that, the NCAA would have called that yesterday a lack of institutional control. That was an organizational failure from top to bottom. And, I get we live in a scapegoat world where we want to, pin something on one person. That was everybody who didn't show up last night.
Yeah, it's just too bad that in the ultimate team game, usually it all gets lopped on the shoulders of the quarterback. Kevin O'Connell's comments after the game, I'm not sure if you saw it. It was very cryptic about, the time that they had together and then going forward. It didn't sound like I'm of the opinion. Now, maybe you agree or disagree. Did last night cost Sam Darnold a good chunk of money with whatever team he may sign with going forward?
Yeah, I would say the last night and the week before, don't forget, because it was a no-show in Detroit, too, the week before. These 2 weeks probably cost Darnold in the neighborhood of $50 million, at least. Like, it would not have surprised me if the season had ended after week 16 or after game 16, and the Vikings are 14-2. It wouldn't have surprised me if, 5 years, $150 million was waiting for Sam Darnold somewhere. With the Raiders have paid him, with the Saints have paid him. An organization like that, could the Jets have maybe knocked on the door, maybe even the Giants? There would have been landing spots, and I still think there will be. But I think the reason I listen to what KOC had to say, the reason why O'Connell is kind of cryptic is nobody really knows. Is Darnold, could they slap the franchise tag on him? That's a very good possibility. The other is, guys, nobody knows what J.J. McCarthy is. Yeah, he was a top 10 pick. Great. What do we remember from J.J. McCarthy's last year at Michigan? That he handed the ball off really well to Blake Corum on their way to winning a national championship with their defense. So I just think that, knowing and what's going to happen next, it's just way too early, in the few hours after the offseason has started.
I had mentioned that nobody wants to play the Rams because they're house money, and when you have Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay, who both won a Super Bowl, they know how to get it done when it matters most. Okay, let's start going through the divisional game this weekend. Rams and Eagles.
But I'll say one other thing about that.
Great against the Packers.
Pardon? Just one sec. Like that Rams defense also showed up last night. Like everyone's saying, Darnold held on to the ball too long and blah blah blah. Like 9 sacks, tying an all-time NFL playoff record. Like at some point, as they say in baseball, you tip your cap. Like that Rams defensive line is going to make things very difficult on Jalen Hurts this weekend in Philadelphia. Make no mistake about it.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing is, though, Jalen Hurts is one of those quarterbacks, too. He likes to hang on to the ball, or that split second of indecision where he doesn't know if he's going to take off or not. And we had talked, Derek and I, earlier about A.J. Brown shutting it down on his own and going to the sideline to read his book. So you've got Devonta Smith and then Saquon Barkley that you have to worry about. But once again, if you're cheering for the Rams or you got money on them against the Eagles, that's probably the team because, they beat Green Bay, but they didn't necessarily look good. And with Hurts coming back from that injury, you know what? It's going to take him some time to get up to speed. If the Eagles get one-dimensional, do you think that the Rams and their no-name defense can shut down Barkley?
Yeah, I have a hard time with the defense as Jared Burson at calling him no-name, but I don't think the Eagles will or can be one-dimensional. Think about the names you just mentioned there. When you have A.J. Brown, when you have Devontae Smith, and look, Saquon can be so dynamic in the backfield too. I just think that you have to make a decision as a defense. How are you going to handle A.J. Brown? Can you really cover him man-to-man? I think the answer to that is no. And so I think what we're going to see this weekend out of the Eagles is that you're going to see a team that is going to use Saquon in a lot of ways they haven't shown on film yet. They're going to use him. They're going to use him out of the backfield. They're going to use him more in the passing game. They're going to really make him become as much of a passing receiving weapon as they are running the football as a weapon.
Roush, I got one more for you from the Eagles. Just wanted to get your take on these two things. I had a buddy actually that was at that game in Philadelphia, and
nice.
And he was with the Calgary Roughnecks coaching staff. They were there the 2 nights before to play Philadelphia, and that's why they were there, and they stuck around for that game. He was just talking about how intense it was. Your take on 2 moments that we had, they're just lighthearted ones. Well, not lighthearted, but just, I guess kind of other points to this game that we wanted to ask you about. First being A.J. Brown.
Sure.
Mass touched on it briefly. Him him reading the book on the sidelines. And then the other one is Saquon Barkley at the end of the game. He breaks one. He could have ran all the way to the house, or at least ran to the 10-yard line and slid down. But he did right away. Just your thoughts on those two.
Well, the A.J. Brown thing's amazing to me, guys, because like on the Amazon list, that book was like $525,000, and by the end of yesterday, it was number one in book sales. Like that author owes A.J. Brown. Imagine that. Like, you talk about your life changing overnight. That's just absolutely amazing. Look, I think Saquon, when he sat the last game of the regular season, didn't get the record. I think he just let everybody know what a team guy he is and how badly he wants to win. Like, this thing is legit right now. Philadelphia's got a real shot to make something happen. And I think Saquon, after all that losing in New York, wants to win more than anything else.
All right. Saturday's games. First up will be the Texans, because they can never not play a Saturday afternoon game against the Kansas City Chiefs. Is there any hope there? It's in Kansas City, although the Texans defense came to play last week. The San Diego Chargers and the Kansas City Chiefs, outside of being in the same league together, really the similarities stop there. Can't take them for granted.
Mahomes, though. But Mahomes hasn't thrown in a while.
Doesn't matter. Oh, did we lose a Rash? No, we lost a Rash. We'll effort to get him back. Yeah, game number 1 on Saturday. The Texans going into Kansas City to play the Chiefs. And I think that no matter what, I mean, unless it's a minor miracle, and the Chiefs self-destruct. The Chiefs self-destruct with turnovers.
I agree. I agree with Matt. I think it has to be something like that. A lot of people are talking about the fact that Mahomes hasn't thrown a ball since Christmas, but I mean, I think we're just looking for storylines to try to make this a little closer. Make it more of a, suspenseful than I think it's going to be. So I don't. If anything, maybe that just makes Mahomes a little more spry.
We got a Rash back. All right, so
Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah,
just want to kind of follow up on Mahomes. He hasn't played a snap since Christmas Day. Like, we're talking about somebody who's coming into this game, fresh. And one of the things with KC, and I don't know where you guys kind of stand on this, they just feel like they've been playing on borrowed time for a lot of this season. And we're talking about a team that, starts the year 15-1, which is weird to say. But, like, they lack that dominance, and yet they're the 1 seed. They haven't had that explosiveness yet. Who's going to count out Andy Reid, Travis Kelce, and Patrick Mahomes in January? I just find them to be a real weird, intriguing, tough group to kind of figure out going into this year's postseason. Because, you get a three-peat. That's rarefied air in sports, any pro sport.
Kept it exciting
with the Patriots too.
Anyway.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and the other thing too is when the Patriots were winning some of those Super Bowls, like remember when they beat the Rams 13-3? I think it was us as fans getting greedy, going like we want a blowout. Like it's Tom Brady winning Super Bowl. Like we want where they just care about the winning. And that's where I think now too with Kansas City is, like you said, Arash, it's not spectacular. They just find a way to make one more play when they need it most, just to keep it going. And the other thing, too, is I would never count out an Andy Reid dialing up a play that no one's ever seen before at the right time, and it just coming through to, I think, so are we all in agreement that Chiefs over Texans isn't a ridiculous thought? Because the other game is probably the more intriguing one. You've got Jaden Daniels and the feel-good story of the NFL going up against a team that everybody wants to win. Everybody likes Dan Campbell and Jared Goff. But after what Jaden Daniels did against the Bucs, the kid's got some mojo going. I don't know if it's that lightning in a bottle, but there's something there.
Yeah, and it's beyond just the Bucs. Like, it's been much of this season. Like, I remember week, 6, 7, 8, watching this kid, and I'm like, we're sure he was in college last year? Like, is that the same, is that the same quarterback who was at LSU? Like, you talk about you talk about a player who's kind of wise beyond his years, ability beyond his years. That's Jaden Daniels. And literally the definition of unflappable. Like, what phase is that guy? I will say this. I don't think I was on with you guys last week. It was Barney and Sharkey, but I went to the last game of the season, Detroit, Minnesota, and I think this is where it's going to get interesting for a rookie quarterback. Because Ford Field, and I've been to a lot of stadiums, guys, a lot of arenas, that was the loudest building I've ever been in by far, in any sport, in any city, in any country, for any event. So how will that affect Washington on a silent count, trying to communicate, trying to change plays with a rookie quarterback, trying to, fool him into deceiving him with what their defensive looks are going to be? I think that's going to be a huge kind of subplot to this football game.
I was going to ask you one more thing about that, Arash, too. It didn't sneak up on us, but Detroit, Ford Field, as you mentioned, just supposed to be an amazing place to watch a game now. That's now come up as one of the stadiums that you got to go to. It's now on your NFL bucket list. I've heard from a number of people, including yourself a few times, and I was I think there was Barney and myself that were on when you were talking about it as well. Ford Field, yeah, it's there now. It's a bucket list NFL stadium, and that crowd, that home field advantage, as you said, is a real deal, is a real thing.
And it's amazing what winning can do. Like, this is good. Like, this era of the Lions, like, the Lions have been horrible forever, right? They went winless in 2008, for crying out loud. The lasting image of the Lions is probably Dan Orlovsky running out of the back of the end zone, which is unfair to Dan, but that's kind of who and what they were. Paper bags on fans' heads, wasting away Hall of Fame careers like Calvin Johnson and Barry Sanders. That's what the Detroit Lions have been, and now they're hitting on draft picks. Downtown Detroit's revitalized. A blue-collar coach with a blue-collar team in a blue-collar town that's absolutely ballin'. And the Tigers have been to a couple of World Series, in the last 20 years. The Pistons have won a championship in the 2000s. The Red Wings had their run in the 90s and, of course, got there, whenever it was, 15 years ago. Finally, it's the Lions' time, and Michigan is just all in on them.
Legacy game, the late game on Sunday between Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. Both could be the NFL MVP this year, but none of this stuff matters unless they start winning Super Bowls. Patrick Mahomes has his, so he's cemented his. They've had great seasons, but to me, I think, and a lot of people, this could be the game of the weekend. This could maybe be the game of the playoffs. Ravens, Bills. I know it's early. We're days out. Is it not a huge point spread there? Where are you coming early? Where are you in on this? Are you Team Lamar or are you Team Allen?
I know we live in a hot take world, guys. I'm honestly Team both. Like, both are amazing. Like, remove Josh Allen from Buffalo and they win what? 3 games?
5 games.
Maybe 4?
Yeah.
And instead they're hosting the divisional playoff after an absolute blowout postseason win. And then you have Lamar, twice an MVP, who this year threw for 41 touchdowns and only 4 picks, who threw for over 4,000 yards, rushed for over 900 yards, who I'm still confused how the Ravens lost to KC last year in the AFC Championship game. Like game of the playoffs, absolutely. Although I would love to see KC Buffalo or KC Baltimore the following week in the for his trip to the Super Bowl too. Yeah, if you're Josh Allen and you lose this, you have to start to wonder when. And if you're Lamar and the Ravens and you just brought in Derrick Henry and your defense has only given up 43 points in the last 4 regular season games, and you don't win, and you took a step back after being the 1 seed last year, then really organizationally you wonder what it's going to take.
So you love both. We'll just leave it at that because it is early. All right, let's change gears. The Dallas Cowboys and Mike McCarthy decide that, we're going to break up. It's mutual. And now there's talk because in Jerry world, it's crazy. Jerry has all the control. But the Deion Sanders thing keeps coming out. Is he one of the few that may be able to tell Jerry, no, I want to do it my way? Take a step back, and will he listen?
No.
I know.
No. I mean, what Jerry say at the end of the season? He said, "I bought this team to be the GM." I'm paraphrasing, but it's very close to the exact quote. Look, it's very obvious Jerry Jones has no idea what he's doing in football operations, right? Like that's now become abundantly clear. Even just with this McCarthy thing, if they pulled the trigger on McCarthy last week, it meant they could have interviewed Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson and some of the other coaching candidates, but now they can't because the window's closed coming off the bye week. He just doesn't have a fundamental, basic operating understanding of how the actual day-to-day of the league works, and yet he's the one who's making, has final say on personnel decisions. I thought it was telling, guys, and I don't know if you guys heard this or saw this. Last night, Troy Aikman went on the ESPN pregame show and just, Troy Aikman, Cowboy legend, Hall of Famer, Dallas icon, said the Cowboy job is not a coveted one. I mean, when Uncle Troy comes out and says that, doesn't that just give you incredible pause to be like, whoa, what is actually happening there? What has happened to that job, to that franchise? And all the roads point back to Jarrell Wayne Jones.
I believe when Aikman said it, and I think we're trying to find the audio, Troy was very polite and very careful in how he basically said that the Dallas Cowboy Gong Show dictatorship is nothing, no matter who it is, wants to be part of. Because I think the only person, I think I said this to Durant yesterday, the only person I think that would have had a fighting shot to get Jerry to listen, because he'd won a Super Bowl in his pedigree, would be Sean Payton. But that ship sailed and he's with Denver. And look what he did with Denver with dead cap space and not a great roster. But,
Jerry doesn't want to be told. Yeah, but Jerry doesn't want that. Right? If that was the case, way back when, he wouldn't have run Jimmy Johnson out of town. He wouldn't be hiring people like Chan Gailey and Dave Campo.
Guys.
I don't know. In a lot of ways, guys, the Dallas Cowboys are football's version of the Toronto Maple Leafs, and the Toronto Maple Leafs are hockey's version of the Dallas Cowboys.
Hey, Arash, before we let you go,
will.
Yeah. Before we let you go, Arash, you wanted to, when you and I were talking a bit earlier today, going back and forth, you wanted to also switch things up and talk a little bit about the CFL, and we were talking about the Riders and the moves that they have made. Maybe just an update on the Toronto Argonauts and Chad Kelly out there. You wanted to touch on that as well.
Yeah, and I heard you guys at the top of the segment talking about Geno Lewis. The Riders on their roster right now have a lot of twos, well, a couple of twos and a bunch of threes and fours. Geno Lewis would be a one. Geno Lewis would become a home run hitter. Geno Lewis is exactly what this offense needs. That's the kind of player, when he becomes available, you go get and you write the check, and then you figure out the rest after. If it wasn't for Polk and if it wasn't for Coxie, the Argos don't win the Grey Cup. So that's my take on Geno Lewis. Now, the guy who was supposed to be throwing the football in the Grey Cup for Toronto, of course, broken fibula. Pinball Clemens had an availability at some league or some football event in North Carolina, and he said Chad has had his surgery, that it's progressing. They won't really have an update, a further update, until at least next month. They're hopeful for training camp, but they just don't know. So, to me, there's just a big question mark. And again, it's January, so there's lots of time before camp, but there's still a big question mark in Toronto in terms of what the quarterback room may look like and what they may have to go do, which is why I think, as we sit here right now, no major quarterbacking decisions have been made with the Argos. What's going to happen with Nick Arbuckle, et cetera, because they're just still kind of waiting on Chad's health.
I think with Ryan Dinwiddie and how good of a coach he is, and I think a lot of us, I always thought he was a really good coach, and it's not like they hadn't won before this past year, but you just see what he was able to do through turmoil and bring that team together, that even if it is a Nick Arbuckle, I'm like, well, Dinwiddie will get the most out of Nick Arbuckle. He'll squeeze every drop out of that.
I get that for like a game or a month. I think from May to November, it's an altogether different animal than it is for just a kind of short little burst or a specific matchup in a specific week. Lightning in a bottle can be very different than, the whole long grind of the season. That's the only thing that kind of gives me a little bit of pause there.
There's been a lot of talk about the CFL schedule not being out, and we don't need to go 10 minutes into that. Just it is what it is. And I was texting with somebody last week, and I said, hey, if the league never talked about and everybody involved about this thing growing and bringing in new fans and all of this, then who cares? Put it out a week before the season starts. It doesn't matter. If you don't need to grow anymore, like if you're the NFL, you're a monster, you can do whatever. People are going to show up and watch. But in the position there, it's like, no, we need to grow. We need to do this. Then I'm like, this, once again, as we're now into the second week of January, and it's funny thing, Rash, you mentioned we're all doing stuff. Entertainment dollars, there's only so many, and time that we're going to allot. And with every day or week that goes by, people are making choices about their upcoming calendar. And that's what besides missing out on the Christmas season, which was huge, but it's one of those things where people will find a way to fill the time or the void going forward. So do you have any insight of when this may finally drop? Will it be this week, next week, February 1st? Like, what are we talking here?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question. And like I hear so much rhetoric and nonsense about, trying to carry the water for the league, that they're not having a touchdown Pacific or an Atlantic game this year because the Argos are doing better at the turnstiles. Well, first of all, last year was BC versus Ottawa, not Toronto. Secondly, the Argos hosted a playoff game against the Red Blacks in November on their way to winning a championship, 2 years removed from winning a championship, and the entire upper deck on the east side was closed. And, look at just what happened this week. Okay, last night, Minnesota played Los Angeles in Arizona. Tickets went on sale 48 to 72 hours before kickoff. And they had a pre-sale window for LA fans for an hour or two, and then for Arizona fans for an hour or two, and then general public. And within half a day, they sold 52,000 tickets. Now, here you have a home team in a playoff game in the country's biggest market, and the upper deck is closed. Here, Grey Cup has become a challenge to sell out. This year's in Vancouver didn't sell out. You knew it was going to be there for 2 years. What are you doing? Meanwhile, we all know the challenges. We all know the issues. And what just is over and over again just keeps getting reminded to us is that the people in charge just don't know what they're doing. And it continues to make things worse.
We'll let that one hang in the air for a sec. And with that, we'll say, Arash, you have a great day. Are the Leafs playing tonight? Just let me check here. Just want to see if I know what you're going to be doing.
The Raptors actually won a game last night. Hell did freeze over.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. So Dallas at Toronto. So we'll let you go get ready for you're probably tailgating out front of the ACC here in a little bit. So we'll let you get your jersey on.
Boys. We'll talk to you soon.
It's Arash Madani, Coast to Coast for Brian Golly. from your smart investing solutions. I love it. Rash is never afraid to give us an ounce of honesty, especially when it comes to the Canadian Football League. All right, time for a break. And speaking of the CFL, those meetings that were going on in North Carolina, the coaches' meetings, Dave Thomas caught up with Ed Hervey, the new general manager of the Edmonton Elks. We'll get his thoughts on what he thinks about his team going into the 2025 season. We'll do that next. It's the all-new Sportscage, streaming at sportscage.com and on the radio at 620 CKRM.
Take a trip down memory lane. Weekdays at 1 o'clock with Colin Lovequist. Number One's at 1. A full hour of country's greatest hits and the stories behind them. We'll take a look back at musical milestones, celebrate some country music birthdays, and a whole lot more. It's all brought to you by North Home Windows in Foam Lake. Number One's at 1 with Colin Lovequist on the voice of Saskatchewan. 620 CKRM.
From the Sask Today newsroom, here's what's making news in Saskatchewan.
The Liberal leadership race will be a short sprint, with the new leader announced just 2 weeks before the House of Commons resumes sitting in March.
Sask Today's team of local journalists are on the ground in communities across Saskatchewan, focusing on local topics that matter to you. Visit and bookmark sasktoday.ca and sign up for our daily news digest. sasktoday.ca. Everybody has a story. From Harvard Media, everywhere.
So, since that little ding on my car last week, I don't know where to take it.
I don't even know.
That's easy. Take it to Regina Motor Products.
Who said that?
I did. Down here. I'm Terry the Tire. Regina Motor Products Chevrolet Collision Center and SGI accredited auto body repair is a full-service collision and body shop that works on all makes and models. Just submit your claim to SGI and set an appointment to get your appraisal done. Easy.
I bet you're tired after saying all that.
South at Highway 1 and 6, Albert Street. RMPChevrolet.com.
Announcing the new Claus Lexion 8900 Combine. You can expect more power for increased capacity. Claus, where combines are not just made, they are made for more. Claus's cutting-edge machinery and support are more than just a promise. They're a commitment to your success, because they understand you are made for more too. Make the best of every harvest with Claus. For full products and availability, visit claus.com.
Are you a young farmer or agriculture professional working in Saskatchewan? The 2025 Proudly Ag Conference will be held in Saskatoon on February 5th and 6th and will feature John Gormley and presenters from across Saskatchewan. Register today to connect with other agriculture producers and professionals while learning about farm expansion planning, communications in agriculture, and important industry insight. Follow them on social media and register today. Registration and full agenda available at saskyoungag.ca.
The all-new Sports Cage. Watch our live stream at sportscage.com and on the radio at 620 CKRM.
Hey, thanks for being part of the show today. We appreciate it. If you've got something to say, you can always call us or text us, 306-936-6262. Still to come this hour, the SJHL report with Benny Walchuk. But as promised, Dave Thomas, voice of the Saskatchewan Roughriders, and general manager Ed Hervey of the Edmonton Elks from the coaches' meetings in North Carolina.
Ed Hervey is...
Hey farmers, the crop production show is here. Come on down and meet Core Grain and Hall C, booths C44 and C45 to chat with our experts about smarter grain storage and handling solutions. Core Grain is your trusted partner for grain storage solutions across the prairies, dedicated to offering you the best grain storage and handling systems. We work tirelessly to customize grain monitoring and conditioning systems to fit your specific vineyard plan, now and in the future. Core Grain, doing the right thing for your farm. See you at the Crop Production Show.
Ed Hervey is the new general manager of the Edmonton Elks, and you've been on the job for a couple of months now. Are things at the point that you thought that they would be at this point in time?
Yeah, I think with respect to, going in with the plan and knowing, which ways I wanted to execute it. Obviously, there was a plan prior to hiring Mark, and then there's the adjustment of the plan, or including his input in with respect to how we want to execute a plan with respect to the roster. Obviously, Trey Ford is being the biggest target for us. I think that was one of the key signings for us going into the job was to, I guess, in some ways, for lack of a better word, persuade him that the opportunity in Edmonton was not only the best one for him, but wasn't going to be anything close to what he lived during his short time there.
So you've got a thrower. Do you have a catcher? Of course, Gino Lewis, the marquee name on your roster right now, a pending free agent. Do you see him coming back and playing with the Edmonton Elks next season?
Not looking to do that before free agency. Sure, he's going to get to the window. We'll let the market reset itself with the receivers. We have more pressing needs on our roster. I don't know, how else to explain it. There's the resources. I put my resources in other areas, and with respect, I think Gino's an excellent receiver, but I think the receiver market is a bit, we're not paying that kind of money for receivers in Edmonton.
So if you don't allocate dollars to Gino, where do you put those dollars?
Look at where some of the positions on defense, I think, right, without giving away, who and what. Just look at some of the areas on the defensive side of the ball, right? I think our defensive line is an area that, is under the microscope coming in and speaking with Mark and our staff. It's pretty obvious that that's an area that we can look to improve. I think our offensive line could use a player or two, and in our back end, a little more experience back there can help in some areas. So I think that's kind of it. But if we're sitting here talking, I think when you look at the defensive line, obviously that's an area that is an area that really has been, hasn't been that good, in the last year.
Edmonton Elks general manager Ed Hervey, Bidsy, like we found out, they're going to let Gino Lewis go to free agency, but he said he's going to let the market reset itself. So does he think that it's going to be coming down? Like, he doesn't want to get locked into overpaying and locking in. He wants to see, and maybe is it the realization that maybe this position group this time around may not garner the money that they did 2 years ago in free agency, where a lot of these guys signed the big ticket deal?
Yeah, if you're to read between the lines, Maz, it seems like that's what he is saying. That's what Ed is saying, that, maybe it'll be a little more spread out, that it may not go directly all to, one or two guys that may just spike it right up. Maybe it will be a little bit more spread out. And you also heard him say that he's just got more pressing needs. Like, he just can't put all of his cap money into one spot. He's got to spread it out a little bit more, and he's looking to just obviously improve his roster in a number of departments. He just can't go after one guy or dump a whole bunch of salary right there. That's the way Ed looks at his roster and the successful Elks, or what he's hoping will be a successful Elks team next year.
Could you imagine if Roland Milligan Jr. was a free agent in this offseason and he was going to free agency, what that position would get reset at? Man, oh man.
Yeah.
I'm so happy. I'm so happy he is signed for at least another year with the Riders. I am so happy that we don't have to worry about that.
He does so much for that defense, and obviously just provides such spark, and he seems to be so timely when he makes his big plays too, Maz. But the other thing too is, he's just so impactful as well on the special teams. Like, he is just absolutely a guy that is a difference maker, and in my opinion, the MOP, MVP, whatever you want to call it, most outstanding player, most valuable player. He is that, I think, from what I saw last year. And I know we're a little biased here, but how he affected the game in a couple of different fronts. I'm glad that he's with us for sure for another season.
We're efforting to get Benny on the phone for the Saskatchewan Hockey League or Junior Hockey League report for Southie Mainline Chrysler. We had him, and then we lost him we're trying to get them again. Southie Mainline Chrysler. You can say farewell to 2024 and hello to massive savings at Southie Mainline. You can get up to $25,000 off remaining 2024 inventory. You can save up to $19,000 on 2024 heavy duties. Plus, they have 2024 Jeep Compass starting at $34,945. Southie Mainline Chrysler, 30 minutes south of Regina. It's worth the drive every time, guaranteed. There is only one game in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League tonight. L'Orange is in Weyburn, but with a win, the Wings could jump 1 point ahead of the Yorkton Terriers for first place in that Viterra division. If we can get Benny, just want to get his thoughts, because as we talked about on the show yesterday, Yorkton had to forfeit those 5 wins because of the paperwork error with that player earlier in the season, where they potentially could be. You got Yorkton, Melfort, and Battleford's all in first place, and I don't necessarily know that in the Sherwood division, Melfort is so far ahead of Flin Flon right now, and I don't know. The other two are up for grabs. I don't know, unless something drastically happens to Melfort, that there'd be relinquishing, that lead. Keenan Ingram from the Yorkton Terriers, your leading scorer, 45 points. He's got 26 goals and 19 assists.
I was just going to add about Melfort too, Maz. I don't think we weren't on the show together, and when I was talking about going there, I went there about a week ago to catch a game. I drove up to Melfort to watch them and that great team that Trevor Blevins has there. And yeah, they're just such a well-rounded group. They have size. They got size on the front and back. They got a little grit on the back. They got some real playmakers and speed. They just got a little bit of everything. And of course, you're going to have that when your record is 29-5 in your first 34. This was a funny one. I'm going to add this one in really quick. I can't remember what player it was, a member of the Melfort Mustangs. It was quiet at this point. I don't know, just a lull in the game or whatever. Anyway, Melfort picked up a penalty, and just I think from habit, the player started to complain to the ref. But it was definitely a penalty. He got a stick up on another guy, got up in his face. And anyway, from across the rink, you could hear Blevins, "Go to the box. You know it was a penalty. Shut up." So he's yelling at his own player to, just come on. We're better than this. We all know what it was. He runs a tight ship there. Everybody's buying in, and they got a lot of great talent. So Melfort, of course, once again, right there at the top. Yeah.
All right, we got Benny. Let's bring in our resident expert, guys. Do your thing. It's the SJHL report for Southie Mainline Chrysler.
Time now for the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League report on the all-new Sportscage. The SJHL report is brought to you by Southie Mainline, the Mainline Automotive Group's newest king of trucks. Southie Mainline, just 30 minutes north of Regina. Worth the drive, every time. Guaranteed.
Benny, we mentioned this earlier, and I said it's because the play-by-play guy, the Yorkton Terriers, first place of the Viterra division with 45 points. Are you the good luck charm this year, or how are you taking any credit, or is this just a coincidence?
I'll take a little bit of credit, but it's been a while since we had some good success here at the Terriers. I know that COVID season in 2020 had good success, and of course, my first couple of years, we made it to the league finals. We won both times, won a national title. But I'll take a little bit of success, but it's been the offense and it's been the goal scoring ability by the Terriers. That's been the biggest success. But if I need to, if I'm the guy talking here on the radio, I'll take the success here right now. I'll take the good nuts.
What makes Keenan Ingram so special? He's the leading scorer in the league. He's got 26 goals and 19 assists. Why is it clicking for him this year?
Just a big body, can shoot the puck. He's got a pro shot, and every time, especially on the power play, whenever he gets the puck, he's shooting. I bet he has 5 or 6 attempts at power play. Whenever he's on his stick, he wants to shoot. Give and go, he gets in a good position, but I think it's his shot that is very good, and he's got some good playmakers and line mates right now at Dustin Renas and Carter Briltz as well. So it's that line just ticking right now, but yeah. He's a guy that has, maybe if he wants to, and has the mindset to play pro hockey going forward just because of that shot. But, yeah, very, very, especially in the power play. I think he's got 10 power play goals in the season. But, yeah, he's been a special player. Not a lot of guys have back-to-back hat tricks here in the year 2025. So he's been pretty special to get the MVP of the week back-to-back weeks.
Benny, if I can ask you a little bit about the Melfort Mustangs as well, too. Just I was mentioning to Maz that I had a chance to go out there and catch them in their act recently, just because they've had such a great season, and I wanted to go watch a game live there. Just your thoughts on how this wagon has continued to roll, and how Blevins has them right there at the top again. As I mentioned to Maz, it seems like they just got a little bit of everything.
Yeah, exactly. Last year they had a very good back end. They had three of the top defensemen in the league and had a very, very good top line with Ryan Duguay, Clay Sleva, and Eden Hutchinson. And it's a little bit more maybe a balanced squad. They don't win the games maybe 5-4 or 6-5. They're winning games 2-0, 3-1, and also getting good goaltending. Last year they had good goaltending with James Benn, but Christian Coombs have been outstanding. And they got those rugged D on the back end with the Nolan Roberts. They got Zach Turner, two former WHLers. They're big bodies in the back end, and they just play that run and gun style. They get a lead. They play that protective. They go in their house. They're very good defensively, and they're just playing some balanced hockey. So maybe not the offensive explosion like they did last year, but Trevor Blevins has got them playing some pretty good hockey in that kind of trap mode, and they're able to have some success. And Battleford's kind of got them last week, snapping their 17-game winning streak, kind of playing that rugged style, kind of trying to match Melfort style, but they're definitely a tough team to beat, and they had a good success and kind of a statement win over the Yorkton Terriers on Saturday to hold that Terrier offense to just one goal. So it's been a great squad. They didn't do a lot at the trade deadline, making no deals. They did get a goaltender back from the Regina Pats and Matt Malacca, but he likes his bunch, this Trevor Blevins, and it's one of those things, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, so they didn't make any moves this past Friday.
It's the SJHL report brought to you by Southie Mainline Chrysler on the all-new Sportscage. Benny Walchuk, who is the voice of the Yorkton Terriers and the Melville Millionaires, joins us. That nutrient division, like there's some runaways going, but in that nutrient division, Battleford's in first place. They've got 43 points, and Kindersley in second with 40. And we chatted before Christmas, some of that rookie goaltending in Kindersley, for them to even be where they are, just like almost going blow for blow with the Battlefords. Do you think this is, if it keeps going that way, that Kindersley can end up in first place in that division when all's said and done?
Definitely possible, for sure. Yeah, we talked about Cody Jamin was their starter. They traded Logan Falk away at the beginning of the year. Then they got Cody Jamin, and he injured himself, but he missed the first 2 or 3 months of the season. So they went into the season with 2 rookie netminders on a team that's wanted to take the next step. You know, Brett O'Halloran's been outstanding, probably a finalist or candidate for Rookie of the Year this year, and he's done enough to kind of put them in the position to have a chance to win the division. And then they go out at the trade deadline and add probably the best pure scorer available in Mason Buchard from Laurens. They paid a big price for him, but he adds him local or offensive talent there from just down the road in Saskatoon. So Clayton Jardine, the head coach and general manager there, kind of said to his boys, hey, I like our roster. I'm going to go out there and spend a big price, but I'm going to try to bring a big player in Mason Buchard in. So, yeah, I think success is there. I think that's going to be a battle. I think Humboldt, who's struggling here as of late, I think they're going to take the next step here once they get the newly acquired players back in and kind of get them used to the Bronco organization. And, of course, Battleford is kind of under the radar, playing some pretty good hockey here as of late as well. So that's a tight division, but I think Kindersley has a chance. They do going to head on the road here with the next 6 or the next 7 here on the road, because the curling, the Tankard, and the Viterra Pinnacle have taken place there in Kindersley. So they'll be out of the rink. I think they played 16 home games before Christmas, and they're going to play about 5 or 6 here after Christmas. So it's a tough go here for the Kindersley Clippers, but they proved that now with one of the top scorers in the league as well added in there. It's going to be a pretty good Kindersley team, and it'll be a tough out here in the second half.
All right, we only got about 20 seconds left, and we always do the Worth the Drive game of the weeks, but we're doing games of the week. I just need you to agree or put a little check mark. They won't happen until Friday night. Weyburn at Melville. Game of the week, check?
Yep.
And then the second one, Melfort at Yorkton. Worth the Drive game of the week, check, times 2.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly, yep. Just down Highway 10, so maybe check out a period in Melville, head down Highway 10, up Highway 10, check out the second period, and we'll see what happens in the third. You're only 20 minutes, so that's the intermission long. So if you don't like the game you're at Yorkton, maybe come down to Melville or vice versa. But I also want to just note that Hockey Day in Saskatchewan taking place on Saturday in Kenora as well, with the Terriers taking on the Notre Dame Hounds. So if you're in the area in Kenora, it's a great fundraiser there in Kenora at the Civic Center. Check them out on Saturday as well.
All right, we got to go. We're up against it for news. That's the SJHL report with Benny Walchuk. Coming up after 5 o'clock, coast to coast. We're going to do press coverage with Glenn Suter. It's the all-new Sportscage streaming at sportscage.com and on radio at 620 CKRM.
Hey farmers, the Crop Production Show is here. Come on down and meet Core Grain and Hall C, booths C44 and C45 to chat with our experts about smarter grain storage and handling solutions. Core Grain is your trusted partner for grain storage solutions across the prairies, dedicated to offering you the best grain storage and handling systems. We work tirelessly to customize grain monitoring and conditioning systems to fit your specific vineyard plan, now and in the future. Core Grain, doing the right thing for your farm. See you at the Crop Production Show.
Pizza! Where's it from?
Kids, it's not delivery, it's...
No, it's definitely delivery. It's from Western Pizza. Mama's had a long day, so she ordered online, poured a glass of Happy, put her feet up, and waited for the doorbell. There's also Caesar salad, lasagna, chicken wings. Oh, I got lots, so we can have the leftovers tomorrow. And the next day? Western Pizza. Big on toppings, big on taste, big on convenience. Get it delivered today.
Sask Lotteries has 50 years of winning behind us. And you know what that means? Lots of winning numbers. Numbers like over 1,200 organizations funded and 12,000 plus groups supported. $6 million given away annually in community grants. And the winningest number of all? $1.4 billion given back to the people of Saskatchewan through sport, culture, and recreation. And we're just getting started. Help us grow the next 50. Learn more at sasklotteries.ca.
Nobody knows the equipment market like Ritchie Brothers. If you're selling heavy equipment and trucks, Ritchie Brothers will get you the most buyers, industry expertise, and the widest selection of custom selling solutions. Sell equipment your way, from your yard or a Ritchie Brothers facility. Ritchie Brothers will drive demand for your assets like no one else can. Contact your local territory manager today to get started. Visit rbauction.com to learn more about selling with Ritchie Brothers.
Louis Dreyfus Yorkton is expanding to meet the growing canola demands of tomorrow. If you still have canola to market, LDC Yorkton offers nearby space with highly competitive basis levels. Don't miss the LDC Nexera program, which still has a few acres available for this crop year, offering extra premiums on top of those great basis levels. Canola deliveries are accepted Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. LDC Yorkton, a name you know, a name you can trust. Call 1-877-782-8882 or visit LDCYorkton.com.
On the farm, dirt doesn't just get under your fingernails. It runs through your veins. Your equipment is just as tough. You bought it for its rugged dependability and efficient operation. To keep your machinery running as good as the day you bought it, you want genuine AGCO parts, fluids, and filters from Nick's Service. Their friendly parts staff has what your equipment needs to keep it running at the top of its game. Keep it genuine at Nick's Service, your local genuine AGCO parts headquarters.
The team of experienced farmland real estate agents at Shepherd Realty in Regina has farm and ranch properties for sale near Ogama, Gravelburg, Regina, Dysart, Rockland, Parkbeg, Crane Valley, Chaplin, Wood Mountain, Viceroy, Unger, Ceylon, Tyven, Pilot Butte, North Portal, Meacham, and Avonlea. To learn more, or if you're considering selling your farm or ranch property, call 352-1866. ShepherdRealty.ca.
Get your equipment out of the rain and snow and under the roof of a new storage building from Olympic Buildings. Have a warm, dry place to work and keep everything out of the cold. Olympic Buildings. Buildings to meet your budget. Visit olympic-buildings.ca.
Good evening. It's mostly cloudy and it's -10 in Regina. I'm Corey Atkinson from the Harvard Media News Center with 620 CKRM News for Echo Sound and Fort Capel. Stay connected with a new cell phone from Echo Sound. Call 306-332-6711. The Saskatchewan government says it's sending 16 provincial law enforcement officers to the Canada-U.S. border to shore up security. Premier Scott Moe says the officers will patrol high-priority areas north of the border, equipped with a mobile command unit, license plate readers, drones, snowmobiles, and 3 planes. He says the measures are partly in response to concerns raised by U.S. President-elect Donald Trump's threatened tariffs.
When our largest trading partner identifies some challenges in his mind, around border security at the 49th parallel, we pay attention. We export 65%, about $30 billion of Saskatchewan products go to the U.S., and so we pay attention.
Mo says Saskatchewan can mobilize up to 95 officers at the border if needed, including when dealing with large volumes of drugs or an influx of migrants. The Saskatchewan Public Safety Agency is offering aid to California as it battles wildfires. Through the Canadian Interagency Forest Fire Centre, Saskatchewan has offered a bird dog aircraft, 3,000 feet of hose, and 10 firefighters. Minister Tim McLeod says the province knows the impact of wildfires firsthand and is glad to support others. The SPSA is waiting for the next steps in deploying the resources. Since its founding in 2017, the SPSA has provided emergency management and wildfire response, as well as Sask 911 and Sask Alert services across Saskatchewan. Workers represented by Unifor at Canadian Pacific Kansas City Railway have voted in favor of strike action if their union cannot reach a new deal with the company. The union says members voted 99% in support of a strike mandate. Unifor represents more than 1,200 members who work in mechanical shops, inspecting and maintaining locomotives and freight cars. Negotiations between the union and the railway are set to resume in Calgary on January 24th. Industry Minister Francois-Philippe Champagne says Canada and the U.S. should do more together than enter a tariff war. But if the tariff becomes a reality, Champagne says Canada will respond strongly.
So the first mission is try to prevent, although we have heard the rhetoric of the president, which seems to indicate the tariff would be likely. But on the other end, at the same time, to be prepared to respond, a robust response that will send a strong message, like we did last time.
Champagne says Canada is the biggest customer of the U.S. and the country buys more from the U.S. than China, Japan, the U.K. and France combined. And a coyote found its way into a supermarket in Chicago. Reporter Eric Horn tells us what happened yesterday once officers arrived with an ever-handy tactical broom.
Police yanking the animal by the tail. From the produce section, witnesses say the animal had been roaming the parking lot when it somehow ended up inside the store. Police and Chicago Animal Care and Control safely removing that coyote who'd been hiding in a cooler beneath a selection of fine cheeses.
No one was injured. The coyote was brought to Flint Creek Wildlife Rehabilitation for assessment. It's 5:06 and that's your 620 CKRM News. Read more stories from around your community and around the province at sasktoday.ca and 620ckrm.com. Your weather is next.
Oh, finally, there it is.
Whoa, did you order pizza?
No, even better. I called Echo Sound, your Sasktel authorized dealer.
Oh, so what'd you order?
Well, they have all the top-of-the-line smartphones with all the latest features and so many great plans, man.
Oh, nice.
Oh, it is the pizza guy. Hey, guy.
Tell him to go away. We're waiting on Echo Sound.
Echo Sound, your Sasktel authorized dealer in Fort Qu'Appelle. EchoSound.ca.
We'll still take the pizza, though.
A few years ago, I was doing okay, but the rising cost of living has made my credit card bills go through the roof, and I don't know how to handle it anymore.
Times are tough right now. The cost of living is causing many to fall into debt through no fault of their own. It's easy to feel overwhelmed and stressed, but there are options that can help you get back on your feet. My name is Jasmine Brown, and I'm a licensed insolvency trustee. I can help you find a solution to become debt-free right here in Regina. Visit bdodebt.ca to learn more.
I'm Corey Atkinson with your 620 CKRM Precision Weather Forecast, brought to you by Linex Regina. Serious protection, killer looks, 1865 McCarra Street, and for Matt's Furniture, visit mattsfurniture.ca. Now here's Precision Weather meteorologist Steve Adamson.
Temperatures expected to be a little bit milder heading into the next couple of days before a much colder trend in our temperatures takes hold as we head into the upcoming weekend. Tonight, partly cloudy skies with rising temperatures, somewhat breezy. The temperatures rising to -2 overnight. On Wednesday, breezy with a mixture of sunshine and cloud cover, wind gusts to 50. The high temperature near 1, although it will drop later in the day. For Wednesday night, partly cloudy skies, the low temperature about -9. Thursday, a breezy day with a mixture of sunshine and cloud cover. Temperatures will be above normal with a high reaching 1. Winds gusting to 50. Friday, chance of early flurries and a mixture of sunshine and cloud cover, breezy and colder. Temperatures falling to -12. And much colder weather on Saturday with a mixture of sunshine and cloud cover with a brisk breeze, the high near -23. With your 620 CKRM weather forecast, I'm meteorologist Steve Adamson.
Across the province at this hour, Saskatoon is -7, Swift Current -5, Assiniboia -6, Broadview Moosomin -11, Yorkton Melville -11, Estevan -8, and Weyburn is -9. At this hour in Moose Jaw, it's mostly cloudy. Winds are from the southwest at 9, and it's -6. Regina is also mostly cloudy. Winds are from the southwest at 6, and it's -10. For more local news that matters to you, subscribe to our daily newsletter at sasktoday.ca.
When you want the best for your truck, you want Line-X. Your truck has withstood the harshest elements Saskatchewan has thrown at it. Rocks, gravel, rain, sleet, and snow, and left with no chips, no rust. Line-X protective coating keeps your truck's bed liners, rocker panels, and bumpers looking like brand new. Don't settle for Brand X. Go with Line-X. It's serious protection. Come see why everybody loves taking their truck to Line-X Regina for their rocker panels, bumpers, and more. Line-X. Make your truck complete. 1865 McCarra Street.
The Country Music Rewind with Colin Lovequist.
We're going to take you back to the year 1993. Shania married Mutt Lange. Willie Nelson went into the Country Music Hall of Fame. Conway Twitty said goodbye. And this time period, 1993, we were oozing with talent. We'll feature some of it.
The Country Music Rewind with Colin Lovequist. Brought to you by Crawford's No Frills. Saturday afternoons at 4 and Sunday afternoons at 1 on Country's Greatest Hits. 620 CKRM.
Broadcasting from Century Studios in downtown Regina, Harvard Media presents the all-new Sportscage, where Saskatchewan comes to talk local sports. Brought to you by Sask Lotteries, bringing communities together. Sask Lottery products fund over 12,000 sports, culture, and recreation groups across Saskatchewan. Be a part of the show. Call 1-866-767-0620 or text 306-936. 6262. The all-new Sportscage. Streaming at sportscage.com and on the radio at 620 CKRM.
Final hour of the show for this Tuesday. It's Maz filling in for Barney, along with Derek Bidwell, is at the Crop Production Show in Saskatoon. Don't forget that Wing Wednesdays are unbeatable at the Canadian Brew House. Only 69 cents each and a mountain of flavors to savor and a flavor of the month. Do that wing thing every Wednesday at the Canadian Brew House. All right, let's bring him on. He's with us every Tuesday and Thursday. He is our resident CFL expert. Glenn Suter joins us. And Suits, back on Friday, when the Jake Mayer press conference was happening, he was saying all the right things about coming to Rider Nation. But I said to Darian yesterday, you can say all the right things, but I don't think anybody has any idea what it's like to play for the Riders, especially quarterback, until you get here and you get in it, right?
Well, totally true, Maz. And when you think about the pressure that is on the quarterback position, I mean, when Ronnie Lancaster is booed, and that happened late in his career, like crazy, with what he had accomplished for the franchise. But it's not just because it's a crowd that is always on the quarterback position and always angry with them. It's a knowledgeable crowd that is totally emotionally invested in the team, and they want results. And if you're not producing results, you hear it. You absolutely hear it. And it's basically saying, hey, we're not making this up. You're not winning enough games. And what's going on at the quarterback position? Because that's where it starts. And Jake also should understand that as the number 2, you're the king for a long, long time. When you're the number 2 QB, you are the guy, while the other one tries to figure it out, no matter who he is. So I think it's a great match. I mean, when you think about Jake being there, I've seen some games. The way he started his career as a starter in Calgary, the first 3 games were over 300 yards. No other quarterback had ever done that as a young starting quarterback. I mean, that you got to think of the names when you throw out a stat like that. Think about the names. I mean, no other quarterback had done it. Warren Moon, Doug Flutie, Ricky Ray, Ron Lancaster. Like Kent Austin. Throw out the names of the great quarterbacks in the league. No one had ever done it. So that's what Jake is capable of. And I think there were some other issues on that team in Calgary that weren't necessarily his fault, and that he couldn't control. So I think it's a great matchup. It's a great fit. Um, there's similar styles, him and Trevor, and I think that will help. So they don't have to be drastically different. Although there is something to be said about having two completely different style guys to give defenses different looks. But this way there can be consistency in the play calling and things like that. So yeah, I think it's a great signing. Not to mention the fact that heading into free agency and then eventually the draft, now the organization, coaching staff, and Coach Mace has a chance to say, okay, we know where our quarterbacks are going to be. We know our coaching staff, and we're able to put together an offense, put together our wish list for free agency and where we need to prioritize. And I think every team is doing that right now.
Suits, don't you think it's two parts here? Don't you think it's a great spot for Jake Maier to land here in Saskatchewan for a number of reasons? I mean, it's great to be with the Saskatchewan Roughriders organization, of course, the best fans that there are in the Canadian Football League. But he comes in as a 27-year-old, although he seems older than that. He's behind a 39-year-old that, Father Time, he never loses that battle. So he comes here, not a ton of pressure on him from a situation in Calgary, and he gets to get behind Trevor Harris, maybe learn from one of the most accurate passers ever in the Canadian Football League. And then the second part I'll ask you, don't you think with those two, all those things maybe in some of those points and more that you have, I'm sure, don't you think that puts the Riders maybe with the best 1-2 punch in the league?
Yeah, I think they're up there as far as, just to answer the last part, they're definitely with those two experienced quarterbacks, similar styles, play calling consistency, and a big upside with Jake. I was saying it all year last year when that team struggled in Calgary that, I had a chance many times to Zoom or, talk on video with Jake and preparing for games. And, his approach, his professionalism, he's going to be such a great fit with Trevor. I mean, him and Trevor, they're students of the game. They're going to be coaches when they're done one day down the road. They are constantly looking in the mirror, and so the self-reflection and the self-evaluation is always there. I mean, they are trying to find new ways and new edges to beat teams and beat defenses. So I think when you add all that up and you look at the experience that they have, if Trevor gets nicked and has got to miss a game or two, and you mentioned his age, it becomes more of an issue. Then they've got a guy that can win. And I was a big kind of backer of Jake Maier when he was getting a lot of heat in Calgary. I mean, even the coaching staff at time were hinting that they were going to go in a different direction, and they certainly did quickly. So yeah, I think it's a great 1-2 punch, and I think you've got a chance now to look at free agency. Okay, where are the pieces that we need to support these two guys, because you can win a championship with that combination.
Yeah, the ultimate team game football, but everything got pinned on Jake Maier in Calgary. But he was hitting receivers in the hands, and they were dropping balls. And I heard you on the broadcast. Like, there's nothing more he could do there. He doesn't control the construction of the defensive line, or the lack of defensive line, and the breakdowns in the secondary and all of that. Yeah, does he have to shoulder some of the blame? And I guess that's why you're the quarterback. So real low pressure situation. Yeah, he was, I would say, a scapegoat, and he was an easy one in Calgary.
Yeah,
and I'm sure he's happy to be out of there and have a fresh start. Big news out of Riderville yesterday. We got our middle linebacker and Jameer Thurman locked up for the next couple of years. To me, most important free agent that we had out there. Suits, can you name me a football team that's successful that doesn't have a good middle linebacker?
Yeah, well, you can go back in time. I mean, to the Edmonton dynasty years of Dan Kepley in the middle, and David Albright in our championship year, 30 years ago. I'm sure Darian would mention linebackers that were leaders on their defense. Absolutely. I mean, think about the Grey Cup in Vancouver this past year and what Wynton McManus meant to that Argos defense. And just the plays that he was making both physically, but again, the respect that he garners when he walks in the locker room and, the team's got their head down or whatever, which is human nature. Guys like that just turn it around immediately. They won't accept it. And they set the standard. Jameer Thurman is absolutely that guy. And, I made a list of free agents that the Riders have that will become free agents if they don't re-sign them. Just priorities. And it's funny because my 1 and 2 were Malik Carney and Jameer Thurman right off the top. So I made this list the day before they signed, and I thought, okay, yeah, Coach Mace is on the same page. And I made the note with Thurman on Wynton McManus. I mean, that's the comparable to me. And think back at just how valuable he was in the Grey Cup, against the Bombers.
Suits, I was going to also ask you about, when you talk about the Riders and looking ahead to next year, just your thoughts on Coach Mace and him coming back for a second season with him. Obviously, when he started, everybody was rah. Everybody was buying what he was selling, and he was a great speaker, and he got us all fired up as fans, and it worked well with the team also. Just your thoughts on Coach Mace coming back here to the Riders now for a second season, and what he and his staff can do to build on what they did in a very successful first one.
Well, Bidsy, first of all, I got to ask you, because we're on the podcast here, did you have to wear a press pass to get in today? Like, because you look like you have a press
Yeah.
Was that a press pass? Like you?
Yeah.
You were only allowed
I'm at the Western Egg Crop Production Show. So yeah, no, I had to.
Okay.
That's why I'm not. Yeah. They wouldn't let me into the station either. They try to always find a way to not let me in. But no, I'm on. I'm live on location here with our egg culture here.
Okay. Great.
Hey, Suits, we got to get you to trade in that 2023 combine and get you into a new 2025 model. So we'll talk after. We got good terms, good financing terms.
I did some tours with a bunch of the companies and have in the past when we were talking about involvement with the radio station, some of the big ag companies joining us here at the station, and some great people that love their football. So that's why you got the pass on. That's great.
Yeah.
When I think of Mace in year 2. I sort of draw on the memories as a player in year 2. And year 1 is like you're standing in the middle of a freeway, and not in Toronto or Vancouver where the freeways are parking lots, but like a real freeway down south or something when cars are flying by you and you just are trying to hang on. You really are. In your first year, I don't care how great a college career you had or where you went to school or whatever. It's a different beast at the pro level. It's from the shoulders up. You cannot make mental mistakes. All those things that are going on in your mind. And in year 1, the same can be said as coaches. They probably won't admit it. They want to be confident always in front of everyone, including the media and their own team that'll be watching the media reports. But I guarantee you it's the same for coaches. They're standing in the middle of that freeway, things are flying by, they're trying to hang in there, they're trying to figure it out on the fly, and they're trying to juggle a lot of different things in the air. So now Corey Mace can come with a completely reworked game plan. Not to say he's going to change what he's already built, the culture and things like that, and empowering the players. I think that's the key to it. When I watch throughout these years, good teams that come together, they empower a Jameer Thurman to be the leader in the locker room and don't micromanage that. And they make sure that Jameer Thurman is the right guy. They make sure that Wynton McManus is the right guy. You can't put a guy in that position in your locker room that's not the right guy. So that judgment, in free agency or wherever you pull players, last week when we were just about to come on, Corey Mace was on an interview and I was listening in online. And I heard Mace talk about free agency, and the question I think was what positions are you looking at to try and add to the team that you already have? And he said, well, the first thing we're going to look at is the character of the player. Like it was automatic that he didn't talk about 40s or skill or can he catch it or any of those things first. Those are important things, but he didn't bring him up first. His first response and his gut response was, first thing we do is we judge their character. And are they going to fit? Are they the right guys? And Jameer Thurman is the right type of guy. So once you have those guys, then you empower them to lead. For us, it was Roger Aldag and Eddie Lowe and Ray Elgart, those type of players. And, when you have those guys and then you empower them. So Corey can build on that. But as far as logistics in camp, how much he works, how much they rest, the type of work they need to be doing. Sometimes it's not doing more work, it's actually just working smarter. How can he manage his time better? How about the draft and how he's going to prepare for that? All of those things are a monster jump better in year 2. And then you just keep fine tuning as you go. But the former player in me, the jump from year 1 to where your nose is just poking out of the water or you're drowning. That's year 1. Year 2, you're up there treading pretty nicely, and in fact could probably swim around a little bit and you can start to get things done.
Suits, I'll agree with you. Probably in year 2, one thing that I think may happen is not that he wasn't decisive in decision making. There may be more decisions, especially at training camp. Like last year when they cut Mason Fine, a lot of people were clutching their pearls. Oh no, what are we going to do without him? I think the belief in the system to be like, no, if we make a personnel decision, we know that we have somebody there. And the reason why we're getting rid of this player, which may have history with the team, is because we feel that we can be here with them. So that's what I'm kind of looking for now. And then that will probably obviously continue throughout the season where maybe they do things a little differently. Probably the big news today is Ed Hervey came out and said that Geno Lewis, they're going to let him go test free agency. And to me, he's the most coveted free agent out there. The Riders have lacked a number 1 wide receiver for a long, long time. A lot of people think it's the one thing that we're missing. Our quarterbacks are at really good money. The dynamic. It's not that we don't have talent at that position, but we don't have a guy that necessarily. Winnipeg has a scary receiving core. All right. Toronto has a scary receiving core. We don't have a scary receiver. We're just missing a piece. Would Geno Lewis be a piece that you would look to add?
It all depends on the price. It really does. And I hate to. I hate bringing this up because receivers are going to stop talking to me because
they're divas anyway. Suits, they're divas anyway. Yeah.
Well, Pitsy, listen. I'm all for players getting as much money as they possibly can, and hopefully we continue to see revenues grow and players can, really start to see their paychecks bigger in the near and distant future. So I'm always for that, and receivers are no different. But when you mentioned in Saskatchewan that the team has the 2 solid quarterbacks that they can really build around now. So what's next? Well, the O-line is next. In fact, the O-line is probably before the quarterbacks. But get that O-line. I know it's not sexy. It's not fun to talk about. They're not the big names in the paper and scoring touchdowns, but those guys, especially with 2 drop back pocket passers, are going to be crucial. They went through so many due to injury that Corey Mace understands now in year 2, not just the starting 5. You could have a good starting 5, and get some of your injured players back, but you need to be 7, 8 deep that are all-star caliber. So make sure of that. I think that's the priority. So when to get back to Geno Lewis, if Geno Lewis comes in, and I heard the interview with Ed Hervey, I thought it was excellent because when he talked about resetting the market, usually what happens in free agency with these 1-year deals now that there's going to be a lot of good receivers or quality DBs or whatever it may be in the free agent market. And when those first two fall, when they decide, then the market is sort of sits there. And in fact, it actually, I think these 1-year contracts hurt players because there's so many to choose from. You can get a veteran DB and you don't have to pay a whole lot more because there's a whole bunch on that list. Maybe after the first one, if Roland Milligan was the first one, that one falls, and then you go, okay, the rest are in this category of price. So Geno Lewis is going to be one of the top guys. There's no question. Maybe one of the best in the league. Arguably you could say he's maybe the best receiver in the league. So he, where is he going to go, and what type of money is a team willing to spend? If an Ottawa or some other team wants to throw a ton of money at him, then no, I don't think the Riders should go down that road and compromise a good solid rush end or a great tackle or a great free agent, even right guard on offense. I just, I think you build your trenches first. If you want a winning organization, I think that's the way the Bombers have done it. They have had a lot of changes in their receiving core in the last 4 or 5 years. They've had a lot of changes. And they had Kenny Lawler leave for a year and then come back. And, and they kept showing up in the playoffs. And then they'd show up in the Grey Cup every year. Now they haven't won as many as they'd like to, but they keep showing up in the big game. And they do it because of Willie Jefferson and a D-line that is always dominant. When you go to their O-line and you look at their top guys, always good, and they have the next one ready to go and prepared to go. So, yeah, I like Geno Lewis. I think he's great. I hope he makes as much money as he can. But if I'm the Riders, I'm not overspending for him. I heard you guys talk with Arash too, and Arash says, hey, that's the missing piece. And it would be a real cool piece to have. A lot of great talk about it on the radio. We would be excited about it for Rider fans, but I'm not overspending. I'm not overpaying. So let's see how the market adjusts when he does go to free agent, because clearly Hervey's not going to sign him before free agency.
A lot of thoughts there.
Okay. No,
a lot of thoughts there.
I wanted to, because this has been beaten to death, not only on this show but everywhere else, and the lack of the CFL schedule, and it's just not a good look for. They're trying to for all the steps forward. This to me is a huge step back. And do you have any insight of when this may finally come down? Because as you know, Glenn, in a market like this, where it takes a whole team effort of everybody in the province and the surrounding provinces called Rider Nation, a lot of us travel. You got to put some plans together. It's not just a 5-minute drive to the stadium for a lot of fans. And the longer this waits, people will start making plans and doing other stuff. Cabins, lakes, vacations, you name it. They're doing it.
Weddings.
Weddings.
Yeah.
Like, just stop, or just to be like, nah, the window is closing. Every day the window closes.
Well, I put together a whole bunch of possible reasons for this, and they've all been pretty much crossed off. First of all, FIFA World Cup, wrong year. That's another year out. That's 26. So that doesn't have anything to do with it. A 10th team, we know that's not happening, or we would have heard something. We heard recently, in fact, just last week, that it has nothing to do. I thought maybe it'd have something to do with a neutral site game, that they wanted to make sure that was solidified before they moved forward with the rest of the schedule. That sounds like that's not happening. At least that's what Farhan had reported last week, and I trust Farhan in his reporting. So therefore, that's not an excuse. There is regular stadium issues, but I just find it a stretch to think that they didn't know those issues, or they didn't know those dates, in November or October even, and could have been working at that time on the regular issues with schedule and things like that. I said last week, and will repeat again today, that I talked to a senior producer at TSN. This has nothing to do with the TV contract. And we have 2 more years on the TV contract with the CFL currently. And it would be the same programming. So those Thursday night games, Friday night games, Saturday in the summer, some Sundays as well. So, the scheduling basically won't change there. And I can't find any more excuses other than, because of the fact, and I don't want to get political, but because of the fact that we have a commissioner that has said he's retiring. And when I bring up politics, people know exactly what I'm talking about. When you declare that you're leaving, the rest of your staff is trying to prioritize. They have to take care of their families too. So they're trying to decide, well, if a new commissioner comes in, does that mean they make changes and bring in their own people, or are they going to hire me? Should I be looking for another job? How much does that distract away from trying to put together this schedule and everything else that the league would need to do at this time? I hope the Board of Governors, and they're meeting right away here, that I hope that they are going to have a sense of urgency, because it's not just the schedule. First of all, there's no excuse for it. It's frustrating. I feel for the fans. I hate having to defend our league like this. It's happened too many times where, guys like us that love our league have got to defend it, because there's just no excuse for it. The last 2 years, it's been out before Christmas. Why not this year? The only difference is the announcement from the commissioner late in the season that has caused nothing but uncertainty in the league office right now. So that's the only, I guess, excuse I could give them. Beyond that, we should have a schedule. We should have had it a long time ago. We should have had it before Christmas, especially if there's no neutral site or anything like that could be causing a problem. Let's go, because you guys are absolutely right. We are making plans for the summer. If you want to get the best airfare on anything you're doing in the summer, you're booking now. You're booking your flights now. You're not waiting. So you need to know, if you want to see the Rider Bomber game in the summer, is that going to still be on the Labor Day weekend, or are we going to see it? We don't know until we get that schedule. Frustrating is a word that I keep using so that I don't use other words.
Suits, about the only excuse that you didn't give, which I love using nowadays, it's my blanket excuse for anything when it goes wrong. I just say simply, got to blame it on climate change. I don't know. That's the catch-all for everybody else, man. For anything going on in the world, it's climate change. So the CFL is not immune to it.
Maz, but if we do that, then we're going to have to tax it. We're going to have to set another tax up, for something. Is there going to be a schedule?
Suits. There is a job open, and I'm not talking about CFL commissioner. With that kind of thinking, I think you are the guy that may be able to step in. You just got to win a little popularity contest.
Yeah.
With some other people, we'll get you heavily funded. We'll get some old money behind you here. Oh yeah. Jeez Louise. Hey, I don't know.
I'll tell you what I'll do. I am calling reporters that we have across the country, my connections with the, in the league and all of that. I'm asking this question every day. When is it coming out? Where is it? Why is it taking so long? As soon as I get that information, I will text you guys, and you can let the listeners and viewers know. And you don't need a press pass to get that information, Bitsy. We'll just,
sure. But the thing is, though, is I got one, so so I can, I don't know if my Western Canadian egg production press pass is going to help get us there any quicker, but let's just hope. Let's hope we get it sometime soon. Suits, you got to plan your life too, man.
We'll wrap on this. So last night, the Minnesota Vikings lose to the LA Rams. There was 9 sacks. Sam Darnold, the poor guy, sacked 9 times. Have you ever been part of a football game where there was 9 sacks?
Well, I remember. I think we had 7. I want to say 7 in a game. I remember back in the day when we were blitzing from the safety position, which you guys would know that I would know that meant I was at the line of scrimmage then. And that really helped us, and that would have reminded me of, and that's actually one of the reasons that I was wondering, like, Barney's not in today, and I was wondering if he was legitimately sick, or was he, I bet on the wrong teams sick.
Yeah.
Wild card
No, he had sent me a text to tell Arash that he bet on the Rams, like 2.5 units. Just a second, let me pull this up. And you're not the only one questioning why he's not here. My wife was like, "Where's Barney? What's his deal? Like, what are you doing?" And I'm like, just a sec.
I just hope he's not renegotiating his mortgage because of the wild card weekend.
Yeah. You often wonder, right? Suits. He likes to have some big weeks sometimes. So yeah. The purple tears, I think is what Maz called them.
The purple hashtag purple tears. 2 units. All right. We'll let you go on this. Real quick. Who comes out as a winner between the Buffalo Bills and the Baltimore Ravens in the divisional? We don't care about the other ones because there are 2 potential NFL MVPs playing in this game, trying to cement their legacy, but without Super Bowls, they got to get there and they got to win.
Yeah, Josh Allen.
Is it going to be Lamar Jackson or is it going to be Josh Allen?
Yeah. I'm going to lean towards Josh Allen. I just like his demeanor. I think Lamar and that run game, Lamar and that run game is going to be what you see if Trey Ford makes it in Edmonton and they have any one of those great backs in the backfield. That's the type of offense you're going to see in Edmonton. That riding the side, those those RPO type plays. But Lamar still, to me, has, and I haven't watched a whole bunch of it, so I'm not going to be real critical. I just mean when I see him, there's still this, a couple of times you go, what was he thinking factor?
Mm-hmm.
It's a great team. They've got a great tailback. I get it, all that. I love their system. It's a good matchup in this game, but I'm going to go with Josh Allen, just lean that way. I like his demeanor. It just feels like he's in more control.
Last one for me, since I know you got to go. I was just going to say this one real quick, though. I got a buddy of mine. He's got 2 young kids. The missus says you can usually watch 1 football game. Otherwise, he's got to do dad duties. So if he's got to pick that 1 football game, Suits, and he's taking your advice, Texans, Chiefs, Commanders, Lions, Rams, Eagles, Ravens, Bills, what are you going to tell him? Then maybe he should pick that one.
Ravens, Bills. That's going to be, I want to see that game. I want to see the defense against the Ravens, how they defend that RPO with Henry, and where they're riding that and Lamar is taking off. I mean, we used to call it the zap technique when we played against guys like Tracy Ham that would run that type of offense. And the zap technique was real simple. No matter what, zap the quarterback immediately. Make him pitch it immediately, so that it becomes just a sweep and there's no riding or deciding or reading involved anymore. Everyone can rally to the back. So that's how you beat, on defense, Lamar Jackson type offense with their tailback and the way they run it. You got to zap the quarterback, hit him immediately, make him pitch it immediately, and you got a chance. We'll see. But that's the game.
That's the game.
Press coverage with Glenn Suter. Suits will be back in on Thursday with Barney, as always. I love any chance we get a chance to spend some time together. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, big game in the NHL, or big night in the NHL, 13 games. We'll dive into that next. It's the all-new Sportscage streaming live on our website at sportscage.com and on the radio at 620 CKRM.
Sask Power is working to improve the power system in your area. In order to do their work safely, they need to shut the power off for customers in Regina, Rothwell Place, 1300 blocks of Lakon Street and Bond Street from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. tomorrow, January 15th, weather permitting. Again, the power will be out for 4 hours tomorrow for customers in Regina. For updates on this outage, visit saskpower.com/outages.
Canada's largest indoor farm show, Manitoba Egg Days, is back for the 48th show. Mark your calendars for January 21st through 23rd as we invite you to see over 550 exhibitors, over 60 speakers, and over 30 new egg innovations. You can find all the show details at eggdays.com. Early bird tickets are available now for $15 per day or $40 for all 3 days. We will see you at Manitoba Egg Days, where the egg year begins.
Nobody knows the equipment market like Ritchie Brothers. If you're selling heavy equipment and trucks, Ritchie Brothers will get you the most buyers, industry expertise, and the widest selection of custom selling solutions. Sell equipment your way, from your yard or a Ritchie Brothers facility. Ritchie Brothers will drive demand for your assets like no one else can. Contact your local territory manager today to get started. Visit rbauction.com to learn more about selling with Ritchie Brothers.
The all-new Sportscage is live streaming from our Century Studios in downtown Regina. Watch now at sportscage.com. Be part of the show by texting 306-936-6262. 620 CKRM.
Don't forget, you can go to sportscage.com and catch up on all the latest stories we're covering, including Jameer Thurman and his 2-year extension with the Saskatchewan Roughriders. And if you want the latest from Sportscage to show up in your inbox every day, you can sign up for our daily newsletter. Just click on any story. You'll get the prompt on the screen. And then every afternoon, about 1 to 2, and between 1 and 2, you'll get the top story of the day email with about 4 or 5 of stories that are trending at sportscage.com. Well, last week it had a monstrous debut on TV, and this is the perfect time. It's January, it's the middle of the week, and there's not a long on. So TGL Golf made its premiere, and tonight it's night number 2. And if you have no idea what TGL Golf is, it's basically
You're not alone.
Tiger Woods. Yeah, well, so Rory and Tiger got together with a bunch of TV executives, and basically they've taken video simulator golf to the nth degree and put millions of dollars behind it. And then you get teams of professional players, PGA players, to basically come in and play for points and play for money. It's on ESPN. Tonight is night number 2. It's the LA Golf Club taking on the Jupiter Links Golf Club. So your 3 golfers, your starting lineup for LA, Bidsy, Colin Morikawa, Justin Rose, and Sadiq Theegala. Taking on the Jupiter Links Golf Club, you have some guy named Max Homa, some guy named Kevin Kisner, and some guy named Tiger Woods is also going to be out there tonight. To do this. And we just talked about this with suits. There are more and more options now for people to fill their time than ever before. Like this. If you're a golf fan, but that only happened on Sundays for the most part, and now you can watch Tiger Woods golf, whether you love to watch because you like Tiger or you hate Tiger, but you'll watch because of him. Now there's a spot for 3 hours on a Tuesday night that you probably are going to be, because Colson's trying to pull up some clips. Because have you seen the setup of how dynamic, like the screen and everything is, and how awesome it is? With how that they've done this, they've got drunk people in the crowd scream. Oh, here we are. Yeah, look at that. And I'm not a golfer. Admittedly, I'm not a golf guy at all. And I think that this is impressive.
Well, there's some drama that you can add there. Obviously, you throw some people in the crowd, maybe some celebrities as well. It is interesting for sure. I thought that it was better. I enjoyed it more, Maz, than I thought I would. I'd like to see the players have a little more interaction. I'd like to see them commentate a little bit more. I don't know, maybe that would help it be a little more dramatic, if you will. But this is also the reality for a lot of people in Canada, this golf, this simulator golf, where we are right now with, our season, right? Like, I have a lot of friends here in Saskatchewan that are huge golfers, and they're all in leagues now, and they're excited to play. They play on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and they take on this team or this golf course or these guys from this course or whatever. And it's like a bowling league now, but it's this simulator golf. And with the weather that we have, it's another way to get through it and still swing the clubs. And now you can get it a little bit more on television. So yeah, if they put enough production value in it and they tinker with it, right? It's just getting started. I think Tiger's got quite a bit of money in it, and so does Rory, and they're working together, those two superstars. So far, interesting, I have to say.
Well, if you're already a golfer that you're already in, for somebody like me that I don't golf, I don't enjoy it, I maybe would watch a little of it. I stopped last week and watched over an hour of this because I'm like, that's who they're after. And they can get guys like me. They're completely on the right track. Because like you had said, in the middle of January, when everybody's cooped up, especially where we live, the only golf you're playing, unless you're going to the States or somewhere tropical, is video simulator golf with your idiot buddies and a pitcher of half-stale Coors Light, and you're telling the same old war stories. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, final segment of the show. There's a lot going on in the NHL tonight, 13 games. There's some matchups there, and we'll talk about if the season were end today, the playoffs, and would your team be in? And I know for some people, including the people harassing Bidsy at the farm show about the Montreal Canadiens, some sad news.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be a good day for Canadiens fans. We'll do that next. It's the all-new Sports Cage on 620 CKRM.
When the Saskatchewan weather turns cold, you can turn to Bronco Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling for water heater and water softener rentals. Bronco is back to renting water heaters and water softeners, so you can set your mind at ease when the colder weather hits. Bronco will send the best qualified and professional tradespeople who will take care of all the maintenance for you, so you can enjoy a hot shower with soft water. Bronco Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. Since 1978. Call 781-2090. Learn more at broncoplumbing.com. They treat you right.
From the Sask Today newsroom, here's what's making news in Saskatchewan.
Several fires have destroyed thousands of homes, businesses, and other buildings in Southern California, and the situation just getting worse.
Sask Today's team of local journalists are on the ground in communities across Saskatchewan, focusing on local topics that matter to you. Visit and bookmark sasktoday.ca and sign up for our daily news digest. sasktoday.ca. Everybody has a story from Harvard Media everywhere.
It's been a long day. I don't want to cook. Oh, I'm going to surprise the family with a pizza night. Oh, I'll be a hero. My family might actually pick me up in celebration and carry me around the kitchen, and they'll chant my name, and I'll be celebrated until the end of time when I...
This isn't Western Pizza. I thought you loved us.
Don't pizza fail. Get what they want. It's gotta be Western Pizza. Big on toppings, big on taste.
And get it hot and get it fast. Western Pizza.
At Freeze Tallman, we know that you have a lot of options when it comes to purchasing lumber and other building materials. We'd like to take this time to thank you for choosing us to supply your building materials for over 65 years. We're proud to have been a part of turning your plans into reality. So for all of your upcoming projects, see Freeze Tallman in Regina and Fort Capel. Let's get you building.
All-new Sports Cage continues. You can watch our live stream at sportscage.com and always on the radio. Saskatchewan's voice for local sports, 620 CKRM.
All right, final segment of the show. One game in the Saskatchewan Midget AAA League. Did you play AAA hockey, Bidsy? Did you play for the Blazers growing up?
No, I did not. No, I played Tier 1, Tier 1 AA. That's as far as I got.
Well, Tier 1, rub that in. I played Tier 2 and Tier 3. I mean, like, listen, but back then there was a lot of like with any sports, hockey, it was politics. If they hated your dad, or if your dad was a known commodity and he was a good guy or a bad guy, trust me, I played with a lot of kids in Tier 2 and Tier 3 that should have been playing Tier 1, but because of the dad circle that didn't get along, your kid got cut and put it made our team better. Like, we would have been awful with some of these kids, but. Yeah. So tonight you've got the.
I was just going to say, you're saying everything is climate change. It's climate change or politics. That's what it is. Climate change or politics. Seriously.
I think back then it was acid rain before, without polar ice cap melting, before climate change. It always had a different name. Every decade it changes.
Greenhouse effect.
Saskatoon contacts in Yorkton tonight to play the Maulers. That game was rescheduled from November the 23rd. One game in the SJ tonight. LaRange in Weyburn. With a win, the Wings could jump 1 point ahead of the Yorkton Terriers for first place. And only one game in the Western Hockey League tonight. The Portland Winterhawks are on their East Coast swing in Prince Albert to take on the Raiders. 13 games in the NHL tonight. And one of the pleasant surprises, and we've talked about this with Eric, since probably about the 6th or 7th week of the NHL season, how much of a surprise the Washington Capitals have turned out to be. And to say that a team with Alexander Ovechkin, that nobody would put any stock into them, but you just seem that without Ovi and the stretch he went through, punching above their weight class. They're taking on the Anaheim Mighty Ducks tonight. And it's Aiden Hill that's still with Vegas. It's Logan Thompson, the goalie that the Caps picked up. He sure turned out to be a nice surprise. Just a good, solid addition. Tampa's in Boston. Did you see this on the weekend where Marchand has got to defend what's going on in the locker room with Pasternak because there's online podcast guys trying to stir the pot with team dynamics and dressing room problems? And should they have to answer to that? If they know it's complete garbage, should they at the point of, because you're in the press, can we just be next question and just move on and not dignify it?
Yeah, obviously it's up to them. Free speech, they can say whatever they want. But I don't know. If I was those guys, it would frustrate me too. I also understand why some members of the media are asking these questions. So, I think that I would just take the high road. But before we move on really quick, I want to add one more thing. You mentioned the Capitals, Maz, and how they've done so well this year. Let's throw it a Sasky connection and his connection to Saskatoon anyway. And that would be Mitch Love, former Saskatoon Blades coach Mitch Love, that moved on and coached the Calgary Wranglers. Then from the Calgary Wranglers, moved on to the Washington Capitals coaching staff. He's an assistant coach there. I know Mitch Love has succeeded wherever he has gone. And I bet you that he is not necessarily getting attention to be a head coach right away just yet. But you just take a look at where he's been. And there's another Saskatoon, maybe Saskatchewan connection there, with how the Washington Capitals are doing right now.
Oh, and the other thing, too, is when you see Mitch Love and you see his nose and you're like, dude had to play a certain way to survive in the hockey world. Oh, man, however that happened. And maybe it was only one fight. Maybe it was a combination. But, man, does that look painful. And, yeah, you're right. He has had success as a coach anywhere he goes. Phillies in Columbus. Columbus, obviously, one of the surprise teams. The way it stands right now, they're in a wild card playoff spot. Dallas at Toronto. Toronto, what did they? They've lost a couple of games, and the world is falling in, and the sky is crashing down. But that's fun to see. The Detroit Red Wings are going to go for their 8th straight win tonight. And Sasky guy, good Sasky guy, Todd McClellan, whatever he's done since he's taken over, 7 wins in a row. And Francis said yesterday, he's just letting guys play. Like Patrick Kane and Morris Seider, all of a sudden there's points. The handcuffs are off. They're playing offensive hockey. They're just getting a chance to do their thing. So it's great to see that with McClellan. Seattle at Pittsburgh, Florida at Jersey, Ottawa at the Islanders, Calgary at St. Louis. This is game number 1 of a very weird, but I guess there's more of this to come. The back-to-back games. Because they're in St. Louis. They'll play tonight, and then they're staying, and then they're playing St. Louis again on Thursday. The NHL normally doesn't do this, but they started this year. And it's partially, they're saying, because it's a money thing to save a little money because they're only going to play so many times. But
there's some rivalry. There's some carryover there, maybe too, Maz, that might help as well. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Vegas at Nashville, just 2 fun teams. Nashville's definitely underperformed. Vancouver at Winnipeg. Yeah, 2 fun places, 2 fun teams. The Vancouver Canucks and the JT Miller, Elias Pettersson thing, we were over this weeks ago, and Canucks fans, you have to be done with it. Either make a decision or just stop. Just be like, all right, we're trading nobody. Kiss and make up.
You talk about sick of answering questions, though, right? If you're that team, everybody else besides JT and Elias, for sure, is sick of talking about those 2 and that drama.
And Connor Hellebuck, man, where would the Winnipeg Jets be without him? They would there is no 1B there. It's a 1A all the way. And if anything happens to him like that, the party will come crashing to a screeching halt quick.
Yeah.
Montreal is in Utah, and in a scary situation yesterday, one of the Canadiens players, they were just out and about, and was unfortunately hit and injured in a car pedestrian accident. Yep. And the player is going to be out 3 to 4 weeks with they said an upper body injury. He's going to be okay, but it's just an unfortunate situation. And that's where you go, yeah, these guys are human too, and stuff does happen. And they are out and they're about. So Montreal and Utah, and somebody was harassing you earlier, telling you to talk about the Montreal Canadiens. Well, sir, we would talk about your Montreal Canadiens, but they're not even in a wild card playoff spot. So I know that you probably would love for somebody to do about 55 minutes out of an hour on the Canadiens, and just all the glory.
They're creeping
and the
up,
past
though.
that you have. I know, but so we'll hold off on that. And then the Rangers in Colorado. And if there's probably one of the most strange stories in hockey, because even the experts, and by means, I'm not an NHL expert, but even the experts are scratching their head that the Rangers, who went to the conference finals last year with pretty much the same roster and the same coach, are having such a tough time this year, and it's just all fallen apart. Shesterkin has been hurt a little bit, but he is back. But the New York Rangers, like getting rid of Jacob Trouba, didn't cure all their problems. A lot of people thought Peter Laviolette would not, last throughout the Christmas break, but he did. So that'll round out the 13-game NHL schedule tonight. Bids, safe drive home from the crop production show in Saskatoon. I don't want you, whatever little sports car you're driving, to get run over by a nice diesel dually that's probably been idling in the parking lot. And man, I love Saskatchewan, and idling is not a thing. It's what we do, and we're A-okay with that. All right. Barney's back in tomorrow. This is the all-new Sports Cage on 620 CKRM.
620 CKRM is your home to country's greatest hits and the 90s at 9. 1 full hour featuring the biggest hits of the 90s. Garth, Reba, Alan, Shania, George, and so much more. No cassette tape or CDs required, and 90s mullets are optional. 90s at 9 for the town of Wolseley and the voice of Saskatchewan. 620 CKRM.
Here at Home Hardware's Bring the New Year home sale, everyone's saving on everything they need to give their home a new look. Like giving their bathroom a facelift.